If 3 bullets are fired in 1 second, okay, it is highly
They're all
unlikely
analyzed.
that'll be classified. No, okay, they might be analyzed for. No, listen,
oh, so you can see they're analyzed.
No, I'm not conceding. No,
you can see they're analyzed.
What you seem to be claiming is that the ICE officer was able to discern that the threat had meaningfully changed once the car was past him.
Yes.
And that's why he should have put firing.
Easily, yeah, easily, yes.
Okay, that is an absolutely insane position.
Well, he does have an option. He can.
What's he supposed to do?
He can do what he did and jump to the side and not shoot.
But just because there is an option, right, other than the one...
You said he has no option.
No, wait.
He does have an option.
No. You might shoot them.
My final question, I'll rest my case. I'll rest my case. Do you think it's objectively reasonable to use force, even if there's no good reason to think that it would have any effect to lower the threat?
Yeah, certainly.
I think that's cooked, and I rest my case. Hey folks, please like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure to check out my newsletter. Information is in the description.
Yo, my God, he's aura farming already. That's unbelievable.
No,
Look at this.
I'm sick, bro. How you doing? Wait a second. I gotta show people your beautiful mug. 1 second.
Dude,
what?
It's been a minute, dude.
It's been, how long has it been since we talked?
Years, probably. I'm
Years?
a fascist now. I don't know if you heard. I think so.
What the I thought you were like a communist.
Well, that's it. Let's just say I've had a political awakening. I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Nick Fuentes, if you're familiar with his work.
I dabble. I dabble. I've got
to say, listen, I want to be up front. I was going to make jokes about you getting deported, but I felt that was a bit much. So, I think we'll leave that at the door. Okay.
Do you understand that we have Trump as the president now? That like I'm Hispanic and that could be taken as racially insensitive?
Yeah, of course. But that's what I do. I do racially insensitive.
Oh, you're
jokes.
racist.
But I said I'm not going to do it. I said I'm not going to do it, bro. I'm being nice.
Typical British person. Say they're not going to do it, but you bringing it up means you're kind of doing it. What's up, man? Listen,
yeah, exactly.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute. I'm glad to talk to you. What's been going on?
I'm glad to talk to you too. I'm glad to talk to you too. Okay. Yeah. Right? Because I need to get something straight.
Yeah.
Did you Stardust last night?
No, what are you saying? What are you saying? Why are you saying this? Is this what you do now?
Conceptually.
No.
What do you think I used to do, bro? You never watched my content, clearly. No, come on. What's going on with Stardust, bro? Tell me.
She calls into my... I'm doing something with Wick TV. You know him? Ever heard of him? He I'm
familiar with Wick, yeah.
You're familiar with his works. He does this thing where he brings in like D-tier celebrities like me to come in and have like I don't know, some kind of struggle session, and everyone comes in and says stuff. And she was among the many callers who called in and said that someone was like racist towards her, and I thought that was fucked up, and she reported him to the police.
Okay, I got to be honest with you, man. I think you got goy walked a bit there, to be honest with you.
What the fuck does that mean, goy walked? That sounds like a Groiper term.
Well, I don't know if it's a Groiper term. I saw it on Twitter and thought it was funny. I don't know if Stardust is Jewish, actually. But I think you were too kind of subservient to her. You know?
What do you mean subservient?
Also, she's Indian, so...
What am I supposed to...
you're kind of bowing down to her.
I've been like, yeah, it was racist. Like, what do you want me to say? It was racist. Bowing down. Like, I'm going to look like an asshole if I'm like, it didn't hurt your feelings and it's not racist. It was racist. And so what did you want me to do? What did you want me to do?
My old colleague. I've got much to teach you, it seems.
What did you want me to know?
We'll start with the law today.
Wait, let's role play. Let's role play. Let's role play. So I'm going to be Stardust. Ready?
Go on.
Pisco, well, I was, this person is like your best friend, and he called me, a slur for...
Don't care!
Really? You would do that?
Well, I mean, probably, yeah. I mean, I'm a very big believer in excessive force. So, I'd be...
Clearly.
I'll be on top of that, yeah.
No, but Stardust was like complaining about some person who attacked her. If I say that, you know what they say, right? Do you know what they say?
What? What do they say?
They say that I cultivate a community of snarkers. They say this.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know about your little call with Queeman where he told you to be more chippy. So I'm wondering if that has impacted.
Don't say that. Well, listen, Chud is saying my call with Queeman. It was a call in my Discord that was illegally recorded against my rules. All right, but it wasn't like anything beyond that. Queeman is Queeman like your friend?
Well, you tell me, dude. You've spoken to him more recently on a voice call, apparently. So you tell me, bro.
Well, you're both British. I'm told that Queeman comes from your community. That's what people tell me.
He does, but I've had to cast him out because, you know, he's unfortunately
a Hassan
into
fan?
Attacking of some colleagues of mine. He's a Hassan fan. He's gone after all the commentary guys, and they don't like me anymore. You know, so I'm kind of basically.
Who are the commentary guys? This is Nicholas Diorio.
Yeah, like Nick Diorio, Willie Mac Show.
I learned who Nick Diorio was. He blocked me. I've never spoken to this man in my life. Nick Diorio.
Oh, he does that. He does that. Yeah,
I haven't, but I haven't talked to him. I haven't said a word to this dude.
It's because he's worried of your great legal knowledge.
About what?
Well, exactly. Good question. I'm about to ask you the same thing, bro.
Well, hopefully.
Anyway, no, wait a second. Sorry, dude. I thought of a better joke, and it's too late now. But what I should have said to you when you asked that, what have you done? You failed to realise that Ethan Klein always wins. That would have been so much better, dude. That would have been so much better.
Ethan Kleins are doing this. I don't have anything inherently against the commentary class or commentary community or whatever the fuck it is you guys call yourself. You just do like drama stuff. You do like Chris Chan.
Yeah, sure, drama. You know.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of retired the format, but I'll still talk about like if someone gets accused of some sexual misconduct. You know, I know you were terrified to go over Destinies. I get it. It's fine. You know, being a former Orbiter as well. You know, we're from the same plantation. I totally get that fucking situation. Okay, but you know,
these are racially and sexually offensive remarks you're making. I just want to say that I disavow you.
Okay, I'll try and rein it in a bit, man. Because seriously, dude, I do want to have like a serious conversation. Okay, but it's me and it's you. Okay. So, can we get started where we began with this? Because you were actually quite rude about me, and you're being very nice now. So, I need to challenge you on this.
Rude to you? I said, fuck you. Did you take it personally?
Yeah, you said, fuck you, Chud dumbass, because I said that I believe the takes I saw on Twitter were motivated by emotion, fear, or politics. And I think that's true.
And you took it personally because you what, believe the kayfabe?
I wouldn't say I took it personally.
Oh.
I just thought it was rich coming from you, right? Because you're a fucking dumbass, bro.
Oh.
Okay. I actually listened to one of your takes and when I looked into it, and it turns out
so you did a little fucking research? I didn't prepare by watching your shit. You have your people like sending you clips of mine?
Bro, dude, I didn't need to watch you do any research.
Oh, wait.
I've watched 50 hours of body cams. 50 hours of body cams. That's all I need.
There's needed context. So the person who told me, by telling me, I mean added me on Twitter, with that clip was Substance. Was this Twitter account Substance, who was also apparently in my Discord, and that's the person who Stardust sent a picture of gore of a cow. That was like, and among other things that he did that were racist. So it actually does tie into our intro there. But yeah, that's how I knew what you said. I didn't do like fucking research into your takes. And just 1 second, like someone's at my door. I don't know why. I might be killed. Just 1 second.
All right, go on. Haven't started yet, bro. It's still the it's still the ice breaking. Am I right? The ice breaking. You get it? You get it, dude? You get it? Ho 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 ho! But then, what if you heard this, dude? What if you heard this? Wait, dude. What if you heard this? What?
Back.
Oh. Okay.
Where were we? I'm sorry. I'm pretty sick.
No, it's okay. You're making excuses already. I understand. Don't worry. Okay, bro. Anyway, we're talking about substance. So here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You were baited by a clipper, right? I didn't really have that big an issue with you. I was talking about how everyone is along political lines on this and hasn't actually looked at anything, and I included you within that.
Don't bitch out now. You said, "Oh, he's political. He's got a bias," as though that's informing my take.
Well, okay, it is informing your take, I believe, and I can explain why I think that. But beyond that as well, okay, I wasn't even like directing it at you. It was a very broad comment, but it was clipped and sent to you in order to provoke you, right? When I said
it worked,
and this is where we can get into the conversation. I said I saw one of your takes and thought, oh, that's interesting, but I looked into it and turned out it's totally fucking false and wrong, dude. your claim that there needs to be lethal force justification for each bullet fired. Not correct. Untrue.
In virtue of what is it untrue?
When an officer decides to use lethal force, okay, there is precedent for this, that they don't need to justify every single bullet fired. They only need fire until the threat is extinguished.
So, right, so that should let you know that deadly force, right, to the extent that there continues to be a pervasive threat, it would continue to justify the firing of bullets.
You're stuttering a bit there, bro. You're stuttering a bit there. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me make it really clear.
That means that each bullet needs to be justified. So what you just said proves my point.
Okay, no, it doesn't at all, and you're wrong. And I'll explain how. Okay. Now, I do need to read this. I'm making that clear because obviously I don't know this off the top of my head. Okay. So hopefully that's okay because I'm not a fucking lawyer like you are. Okay. But this was actually determined in a case called Plumhoff versus Ricard. Okay?
Plumhoff, yeah. It's a SCOTUS decision from the 2010s.
Yeah. And this was in regards to a police chase. Now, obviously, the violence of the police chase contributed to the decision that lethal force was authorized. Yeah. But separately to that, they said this. We now consider respondents' contention that even if use of deadly force was permissible, petitioners acted unreasonably in firing a total of 15 shots. We reject that argument. It stands to reason that if police officers are justified in firing at a suspect in order to end a severe threat to public safety, the officers need not stop shooting until the threat has ended. As petitioners noted below, if lethal force is justified, officers are taught to keep shooting until the threat is over. That is the Supreme Court precedent on this issue.
So you just realized you fucked yourself, right?
How?
Okay. So where in your quotation from Plumhoff does it say that every bullet does not need to be analyzed under the Fourth Amendment for excessive force? That's the proposition that you claimed. So where does it say that?
Okay, right, now hang on a sec. You are now trying to use debate pedophile tactics to get out of this, okay?
That was your contention.
Show me a case. Don't give me that bullshit about show me the contention, okay? It's very clear what the ruling says, okay? If a police officer has authorization to use lethal force, they're allowed to continue to use lethal force until the threat is ended. Therefore, there isn't an individual justification required for each bullet. That's the precedent, okay? Rather than give me your fucking pedophile bullshit, rather than give me your pedophile bullshit, why don't you quote some law at me? No, we're not going to slow down. We're speeding up, bro. We're speeding up because you know that you're wrong about this.
No.
Okay, you know that you're wrong about this.
I know that I'm right. That's why I'm slowing down on Plumhoff.
No,
this is the case that you brought.
You know that you're wrong, dude. You are wrong about this.
I read this case in law school. I know it better than you, and we're slowing it down.
Law enforcement are not. No. We're not slowing it down because you're wrong. You're trying to slow it down because you know that you're wrong, and you're trying to come up with some little trick or tactic, some Jewish lawyer strategy, in order to circumvent the fact that
I thought you wanted a serious debate.
You were stuttering. I'm giving you a serious debate. You were stuttering when you first answered. You were stuttering when you first answered, bro, because you don't have an answer to this. Because you were wrong to say that each shot requires justification.
It does.
That's what you claimed in your tweet. That's what you claimed in your tweet.
No, and it's true.
No, it doesn't.
And it's true. And it's incorrect. And it's true, and Plumhoff proves it, and I'm about to show you why. So let's stick on Plumhoff. So the fact,
go on. Shoot.
Right, the fact that SCOTUS states that it's reasonable to use force in the context of the fact pattern of Plumhoff means they're analyzing every bullet, right? The 15 bullets are all being analyzed, yes or no? Okay,
I'm not playing your fucking game, dude.
Is the answer yes? So the fact that they're analyzing it,
no, you're not getting me on this, Pisco. You're not going to get me with this. We came from the same fucking dungeon, bro. You're not going to fucking get me on this. You said you need to have a self-defense rationale for these shots.
You do. Yes, you do. The Plumhoff rationale applies to... So, yes.
No. Under Plumhoff, if you're authorized to use force, you shoot until the threat is ended. Therefore, you don't need to justify each bullet fired.
No.
It's that simple.
Do you understand
You can disprove me immediately. You can disprove me immediately by showing case law that shows that an officer, as part of their analysis in regards to lethal force, has had to account for each instance of shot being fired within one sort of overall force deployment, if that makes sense. One use of lethal force.
I mean, the proposition for that is from Tennessee v. Gardner. It's from Plumhoff itself. It's that...
Stop. Tennessee versus Gardner.
Yeah.
How is it from Tennessee versus Gardner? Because that relates to whether or not you're allowed to shoot a fleeing felon. How does that relate to Tennessee versus Gardner?
Because they analyzed the Fourth Amendment deadly force principles in that case, and it's It's one of the most important critical cases, and
why is it critical? Why is it critical? What's the reason it's critical?
Because it's one of the first times that SCOTUS has confronted the issue, and it's where a lot of the case law is developed. What did they decide that was so important? No. What did they decide specifically that was so important? There's a bunch of stuff that was very important in that case.
No,
are you just trying to quiz me?
No, I'm trying to quiz you because you present yourself as a lawyer, but you don't know what you're talking about, and that's why you're fucking wriggling. You tell me, what was the primary holding in Tennessee versus Garner right now, without looking it up? Go.
So, it is that if there is a significant threat to the public, if the officer perceives it from an objectively reasonable perspective, that the use of force is justified if necessary in response to the threat of serious bodily injury or death to the public or to the officers.
So what about that relates? Okay, so what about that relates to the justification for each bullet fired?
Yeah, it's their holding that the use of deadly force as against a person is a seizure under the Fourth Amendment, which must be analyzed. And of course, every seizure under the Fourth Amendment must be reasonable.
You can keep buying for time. You can keep buying for time.
We're just going to slow down.
All you want. Explain to me.
We're just going to slow down.
No, you know that you're fucked here, bro. You know that I fucking researched this, and you know that you're wrong, and you know that you're wrong. That's why you're saying slow down. No. That's why you're stuttering.
The fact that Garner.
Explain to me. No. Very specific. Yeah. You claim each shot needs individual justification. You refer to Tennessee versus Garner.
Yes.
What about Tennessee versus Garner says that each individual bullet fired, as you stated, needs deadly force justification? Go.
Because Garner stands for the proposition that the application of deadly force against an individual is a seizure. Every bullet fired is a seizure against an individual. And
no, it's not. That was contested. No, it's not. That's contested. That's contested by Plumhoff. That's contested by Plumhoff.
No, it's not.
It is contested by Plumhoff.
Stop.
It is absolutely
contested by Plumhoff. This is embarrassing, Chud.
Because it's
you have to let me finish. You have to let me finish the thought.
You're not answering my question. You're not answering my question.
I am. So your question.
Everyone can see it. You're stuttering. You don't know what you're talking about.
So I am answering your question. So Chud. What you asked basically, how is it possible that Garner stands for the proposition that every bullet must be justified? Well, the mere holding that the use of force is a seizure in this context is incorporating the Fourth Amendment. And of course, if the use of deadly force is a seizure and all seizures must be reasonable under the Fourth Amendment, it means all applications of force must be reasonable under the Fourth Amendment, which means all uses of force must be justified, in which case all shots must be justified. It's just a logical entailment.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
That is contested by Plumhoff. I'll read it again. Okay? Because what Plumhoff says is essentially, to put it simply, because you clearly don't know, shoot until the trigger goes click. If it is determined that force is permissible, you can shoot until the trigger goes click, okay? And as long as the threat is not dynamically changed within that time. Let me give you an example, okay? Because I clearly know more than this about you. If you shoot someone 5 times and they fall to the floor and they're incapacitated, right? That's likely fine. But if you then went up and fired a 6th shot, the 6th shot would be a separate instance of force because it's, substantively after the first 5 shots, and that would likely be considered excessive. Right? That's what it's referring to. But as in this case, if 3 bullets are fired, no, I'm not. If 3 bullets are fired in 1 second, okay, it is highly
They're all
unlikely
analyzed.
That will be classified. No, they might be analyzed for. No.
Listen, so you concede they're analyzed.
No, I'm not conceding. No,
you concede they're analyzed.
Bro, I was warned about you, bro. What? Dude, you and I both know that you're wrong. That's what's so funny about this. You know that you're wrong. You know that you're wrong, bro. You know that you're wrong. They might be analyzed for a police report, but not legally. From a legal perspective, Plumhoff sets the precedent that you can fire until the trigger goes click.
No, it's literally the opposite. So Plumhoff is holding that it's reasonable under the circumstances to fire that many shots. It's not saying we don't analyze the shots. It's saying we analyze them and we assess them as reasonable.
You're trying to find some little trick your original claim was you need to have a self-defense rationale for those shots.
And there is.
That's not true because you need one self-defense rationale for all 3 bullets based on Plumhoff and what it says.
So first off,
simple.
First off, Plumhoff is not just a self-defense rationale. It's a defense of public rationale. And even putting that aside, Plumhoff isn't saying you don't analyze those shots. What Plumhoff is saying is we've analyzed those shots and we find them to be reasonable. That's why it's so preposterous you're citing it, right? Plumhoff is analyzing every one of the shots, and you're claiming that it's standing for the proposition that you don't analyze the shots.
If lethal force is justified, officers are taught to keep shooting until the threat is over.
Do you think that's responsive to what I just said? You're like you're like Pearl in that debate she just had. She's like,
okay.
what is alimony?
Dude,
what is alimony?
You referenced that debate because you want to throw some fucking red meat to the audience when I heard you got fucking gaped, bro. Didn't you officially lose your fucking debate? Is that because you were sick then too?
Yeah,
you're wrong about this.
They did a poll of the MAGA audience, and yeah, I lost the MAGA poll.
Pisco, answer this and this question alone, okay? It's your turn to answer a fucking question.
All I've been doing is answering your questions.
Cite me relevant case law where it's a similar circumstance, multiple bullets fired within a matter of seconds, and that has been determinant on whether or not force is reasonable.
I don't have a on-point fact pattern from the perspective of, a appellate court
you don't
or
have
something.
any relevant case law. Just to be clear, precedent is against you. As much as you say otherwise, you're wrong.
No.
You don't have any relevant information to back up the idea that each individual bullet gets analyzed.
Wait, no. That I just proved and dunked on you.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
That's a different thing. That's a different thing than what you just asked for.
On me as much as you want, bro. It's not fucking working, dude. People can see through you. You're stuttering. You're weak. You haven't got any fucking examples, okay?
In Plumhoff,
you will not win this war, dude. You will not win. You know that you're fucking wrong. You know you've been speaking out of school, okay? You know that you don't know as much about.
Why don't we just have a debate? Why don't we just have the debate?
Because I'm fucking sick of people.
Oh, you're
saying
sick now.
Things that aren't true.
Yeah,
I'm sick. Yeah, people saying things that aren't true, okay, and then they come on and they can't back it up, and you're using.
Remember when Logan Paul?
Remember when Logan Paul boxed? That you're bullshit. Remember when Logan Paul?
Remember when Logan Paul boxed at like one guy who like pretty much gave up the fight by like doing illegal stuff in the boxing arena. I forget, like he went after his girl or whatever. You're kind of that guy. You're just like doing a DQ right now and just like making the conversation impossible because you know you're gonna get blown the fuck out. Your initial point.
Explain to me how you blow me the fuck out. Explain to me. Explain to me how each bullet is going to be analyzed in the shooting.
You started with the notion that it's possible for you to like to sandbag me with cases as though I haven't heard of Plumhoff or whatever, and as though that Plumhoff stands for the proposition that you don't analyze every shot, when what Plumhoff was doing in responding to the lawsuit by petitioner was specifically to analyze their contention that each of the shots wasn't justified. And what Plumhoff stands for is you analyze them, right? Plumhoff is holding they're reasonable. It's not holding you don't analyze them. And that's what's so fucking funny is you cited a case that's the opposite.
Them under one umbrella of use of force, which is exactly how it would be determined in the ICE case. Those three bullets would be considered one use of force.
Oh no, but there's distinguishing factors which would, in my opinion, lead to a different result in this case than in Plumhoff. I think Plumhoff helps my position.
Distinguishing factor? How is it distinguishing factor? Those 15 rounds are fired in 10 seconds. This is 3 rounds fired in 1 second.
Yeah, so the reason why it's different is the rationale in Plumhoff had to do with public safety after a fuckered chase, which was which put the lives of innocent bystanders. It's completely relevant. Because
the threat there is a separate decision that they're making within this decision that specifically talks about.
What the fuck are you talking about? You don't know shit. What do you mean a separate decision within the decision? What are you saying?
Because they're saying here, if lethal force is justified, officers are taught to keep shooting until the threat is over.
Right. Okay? That proves my point. Right. So that would
it doesn't prove
that would stand to reason.
That would stand to self-defense.
So all right. So let's talk about.
Have you litigated any self-defense?
I've never litigated any self-defense cases before. Doesn't matter. I'm not claiming I have. I'm not throwing around my credentials. I'm just saying you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
No, you do throw around your
No,
credentials.
I don't.
You absolutely do.
I put it in my bio.
You're known as the lawyer guy. You're known as the fucking lawyer guy, and you go on Twitter and you argue about this with people.
I don't say you should believe me because I'm a lawyer. You should believe me because I litigated self-defense cases. Okay, it's preposterous. That's not what I claim at all.
Do you think of you as a lawyer?
Can we actually have a serious conversation? Yeah, people do think that.
I'm willing to have a serious conversation, but you're not willing to admit you were wrong because you'd look terrible, and you'd have to admit you were doing it because you're politically motivated. That's the reality.
Okay, you can claim that, whatever. But let's just do the fucking conversation, okay? So in this case, right, the fact that you're citing Plumhoff, which states you're allowed to shoot while the qualifying threat persists, yeah, that's my point. That when the threat is over, you're not allowed to shoot, right? That's what it implies. Yeah. The fact that you're able to shoot while the threat persists means you're not able to shoot when the threat doesn't persist, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
All right. My contention is A, that there was never a qualifying threat, and B, even if there was, the use of force wasn't reasonably necessary, and C, even if it was, at the time the threat is over, the shots aren't justified, the later shots. And so on all scores, that standard, I think, is in my favor.
Okay. So we can look at that, right?
Yeah.
But you originally claimed, right, that you need to have a self-defense rationale for these shots.
Yes.
So you're saying that each individual shot would need to be analyzed as a separate instance of self-defense, correct?
Separate instant. All the shots need to be justified. That's the point. They're all related.
Okay.
They're related because it's a totality of circumstances analysis. I'm not saying you ignore the context and the previous shots. That's not what I'm saying.
What you seem to be claiming is that the ICE officer was able to discern that the threat had meaningfully changed once the car was past him.
Yes.
And that's why he should have stopped firing.
Easily, yeah. Easily, yes.
Okay. That is an absolutely insane position. It happened within 1 second.
Yeah.
The 3 shots were fired in 1 second.
So the human reaction time and observing of threats is faster than that. It's faster than a second. Did you know that?
So okay. Are you seriously
No.
trying to argue, bro?
Yes, it's faster than a second.
Hey, you are so terrible at this, dude. Are you seriously trying to argue that the officer in 1 second could determine that the car had gone past him and stopped firing?
Yes, I don't know if you're like very slow and you take a second to react to everything. You take it's not ridiculous.
It's not just a second to react. It's to identify and notice that the threat has passed him and then to cease firing.
Yes, you can do that in less than a second. Do you think you can't? Are you a human being? Do you live in the world? Have you ever neo'd out the way or something?
Even if I do not agree that it's possible to do that.
When you say it's not possible, you mean it's literally not possible.
I'm not doing this game with you. I'm not doing this.
It's not possible to react to something in less than a second. Are you fucking stupid?
I'm not doing this Jewish debate. Fucking.
Are you fucking stupid?
Okay. Bro, you're the one that's stupid because you know how insane this sounds, but you're backed into a position that you have to defend because of political reasons, so you can't back down now.
You haven't made that case.
Absolutely no way. There is absolutely. Well, I'm making the case because you made a knee-jerk reaction. You said something which isn't true, clearly motivated by your bias. It's fucking obvious, dude. But anyway, here's the thing. Even if you could argue that you could meaningfully change your kind of perception of the threat, okay, or analyze the perception of the threat to stop shooting, to expect a police officer to do that in 1 second in a high tense, high pressure situation is fucking insane.
Why?
Okay, and it's not something because the high pressure situation has a negative impact on your ability as a human being to assess, to change, okay? And in fact, the Supreme Court agrees and they give deference to officers making split-second decisions.
So yeah, I know there's dicta in Gardner that says, we shouldn't use 20/20 hindsight, and we shouldn't forget that there's like these are split-second decisions.
It's actually Graham versus Connor that states this as well.
Okay.
And it says, and I'll quote, "The calculus of reasonableness must embody allowance for the fact that police officers are often forced to make split-second judgments in circumstances that are tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving about the amount of force that is necessary in a particular situation." So they're saying that if someone makes a split-second decision, we'll give deference for that. But you're saying, through our Supreme Court precedent, I think in a second, an officer can determine it and change.
It doesn't say we give deference. It says we should keep in mind that when we're analyzing using the objective reasonability test, that it's easy to sit in Monday morning quarterback, but you can't forget, and you have to include the fact that it's split-second decisions and that we're operating with hindsight, and to just keep that into consideration. But it doesn't say we defer to whatever cops do within a second, and you get a free second window of fun time whenever something happens. Like, that's not what they're saying there. You're overstating that. And it's also a dicta, by the way.
I'm not overstating that at all.
Yes, you are.
I'm not overstating that at all. No, I'm not. You're claiming that. You don't actually know that. You're just saying that because you've got some credentials that you're trying to throw around to impress your fucking retarded audience, okay?
I'm not...
But it's absolutely insane to think with all of that taken together that a police officer could be expected to establish that after firing between the first shot and the third shot, right? And it's less than a second as well.
Well, none of the shots are just like, can we give some structure to this debate? I don't know why you're immune to that. Why don't we analyze it shot by shot? I mean, why don't we start with the first shot?
No. Because you don't need to analyze it shot by shot. You can literally just look at the first shot, and if that is justified, all are justified. It's that simple.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think I've shown why that's not the case. But I'm happy to analyze.
What case laws existed where they have to individually justify each bullet one by one?
No, I'm not saying that you hermetically seal each analysis. I'm not saying that you don't consider the other bullets or the amount of time between the shots. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you.
But surely, right? So, have you watched body cams before?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's lots of body cams where they fire like 15 bullets in quick succession, right?
Yeah.
And that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with that in mind, right? Do you not think it's absurd that we don't have more cases where there's more, questioning of lethal force, where an officer is expected to say this is why I fired the first bullet, the second bullet, the third bullet, the fourth bullet, etc. From a legal perspective.
So that's what happened in the Chauvin case. Is they analyzed the application of force throughout the whole time. Yeah.
Go on.
So
this is retarded. So I'll let you continue because it's insane. Go on.
I'm just telling you what the jury instructions were. I'm just telling you what they argued, and what was important in that case is not just to analyze the initial application of force as against George Floyd, but throughout the duration of the hold. And one of the arguments, I thought the most compelling arguments from the prosecution was, it couldn't have been justified to continue to use the force that they used on George Floyd's body when he stopped breathing. And so it is the case that throughout the continuation of force, at every moment it needs to be justified. There are cases standing for that proposition. Like, as I sit here,
okay, wait, stop. Okay. Can you think? I'm going to ask you. You're a smart guy. Can you think of any differences between the ICE shooting and George Floyd's murder?
Of course I can. Of course I can. I'm just
go on.
Don't get triggered. I'm just telling you that
I'm not triggered because you're pointing out these Supreme Court precedents have got all these differences, but you're trying to compare George Floyd, where a man was strangled to death for 7 minutes, to 3 bullets being fired in 1 second, when we're talking about assessing and changing use of force in response to what we're seeing.
Have you ever seen the movie Stand and Deliver?
I don't care about Stand and Deliver. Don't give a fuck.
The reason is because I'm like a teacher right now. I'm trying to reach these kids.
Have you seen Marvel movies? Have you seen Marvel movies, bro?
I'm trying to reach you. I'm trying to reach
Carl
you.
Rittenhouse should have submitted to the mob? What do you reckon? Have you seen a Marvel movie where that happens?
Yeah,
you get that one? Remember that one?
I don't know what you're talking about. What the fuck are you talking about?
What are you talking about referencing movies? Why are you not citing law?
I'm trying to.
Chauvin. Go back to Chauvin. Explain. Go back to Chauvin. I don't care about the movies.
I absolutely will. No. Because
I go to a fucking movie review site or watch
if you're gonna be snarky, I'm gonna be snarky back. And the reason I'm bringing up Chauvin isn't to, like, I don't know, mind fuck you. It's because I think you're low IQ, and I'm trying to bring up. I'm trying to bring up cases that are. I'm trying to bring up cases.
Anyone that knows about this. I'm trying to bring. I'm right.
I'm trying to bring up cases.
In comparison, you thought you'd fucking roll me like you did with Hutch. Hutch is a fucking retard, bro, and didn't look into it. But I did.
What the fuck are you talking about? Hutch is my boy.
Shit, bro.
Don't talk shit about Hutch. Don't talk shit about Hutch. Seriously.
Too late, I did. He's a fucking retard. Continue.
Why would you say that? That's fucked up. Anyway, the reason I brought up the Chauvin case wasn't to say that it's the same fucking case. It's for the discrete point that every use of force needs to be analyzed across all of its application. That's what they were doing in the Chauvin case. They were analyzing the use of force across the entirety of the application of force. I'm not citing it for anything else. It's just an evocative example that low IQ people can understand because the case is famous.
And one of the reasons, right, it's likely that wasn't considered reasonable is because it happened over 7 minutes and there was multiple inputs of information that added to the totality of circumstances that undermined Chauvin's case.
No, but I'm not citing. No,
this happened in 1 second.
I'm not citing
the precedent of split-second decisions. Okay, the court accounts for that when they're assessing totality of circumstances.
No, of course, I'm not citing it for the proposition that it's on all fours with this case. I'm just citing it for the proposition that the application of force is justified every time it's applied. You don't stop analyzing it just because in a previous second it may have been justified, even assuming it was. You analyze all.
And the Supreme Court gives some weight towards split-second decisions made.
In Plumhoff, they're analyzing every shot. Now, every shot has the same results. They find them all as reasonable, but they don't just ignore the calculus.
They didn't. They didn't do that. They didn't look at each shot and find it reasonable, right? They looked at all the shots and they said, "We're going to consider all of it reasonable as part of one use of force. We don't need to look at each bullet individually."
No, that's
wrong about this. And that's why there's no case law that backs you up, because that's not true. The law of the land.
That's not true. But that's not true. That's not true. But we can go into the first shot, right? So, and I think that's a nice approach, is to go into the first shot and see what's good. So it's my contention both that the first shot, there was not a qualifying threat, in that there wasn't a serious and imminent threat of serious bodily injury to the officer in the case, using the totality of circumstances.
Again? How did you describe it? What did you describe it again?
So I'm using the Supreme Court standards as expounded by the Minnesota Supreme Court, which again, citing Gardner, relates to whether or not a threat is imminent. and involves a serious threat of serious bodily injury or death. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I mean, I just think that if I put it really simply, without these lawyer terms, okay. And I know all these law terms. So I've actually looked into this, okay? Oh, by the way, mate, I know we're having a bit of a back and forth debate. I've got a great idea for a show for us if you're interested.
Right.
Is that something you're open to?
Well, I'm open to all propositions that you might have from each other.
All right. Imagine the vision. Let's just say this, right? Imagine the vision. You and me both watch Bodycam videos together, and we come at it from our different perspectives to make analysis of the use of force. Wouldn't that be fucking insane content, bro?
I think it would be insane. Let me think about it, because listen, this is a lot of fun, but I'll think about it. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Anyway, we can. I guess we can watch the video. I mean,
halfway through our debate, Chud offered me to do a show with him.
Yeah, dude, I think it would be insane content, bro. I think we're having great banter here, even though I'm getting a bit testy, and you're keeping your cool. Okay, but you're a bit stuttery.
I am.
I don't think you're expecting me to prepare for this, so I think
Listen, I have 1 HP, but I think so far I'm doing great, and I think I'm impressed that you studied your case law, and so that's impressive. I give you your flowers. I think you prepared. I don't think it's doing you much good, but I do think it shows that you took an interest and that you took the time to get prepared. So why don't we do the first shot?
Okay, let's do the first shot. I tell you what, bro. Okay, right? I'll let you take control of the wheel, so to speak. Okay, I'll be the ice agent. Come on,
that's very magnanimous of you. Very magnanimous. All right. So
you bring up the clip and we'll talk through it.
The clip.
Before we get to that, though, right? I'm sure you would agree with me, as it's based on the objective reasonableness of the officer's eyes. The mobile phone footage would be the best thing to analyze in order to establish.
Yeah, we can use that. We can use anything you want. Yeah, we can use that. I think.
Do you have the clips to hand?
No. Do you mind bringing it up? I don't have it, and I'm sick.
Okay. Sorry, bro. I've got it. I'll send it to you. Okay. How many times have you watched this, by the way, dude?
Enough. I don't know how many.
I probably watched this about 50 times. I've actually gone insane over it, to be honest.
Yeah. You've gone insane over it?
Yeah.
What's that?
Okay, buddy. Let's see what we got. Come on. In fact, let's be a bit more reverent here, because this is pretty fucked up what happened. Can we just say this is a fucked up thing that happened, okay? Holy fuck, dude. Jesus. Okay.
You want me to unmute? I'll unmute.
Yep, sure.
That's the first point of relevance here. Her demeanor. I think it's. I don't think it's dispositive, by which I don't think it resolves the case. I don't think. That
before we do this, can you just remind me of the 3 gram factors?
It's not a test like that. It's not a 3 gram test. It's a morass test. It's like a Gestalt test.
Hang on a sec. Wait. Okay, you're a bit off the mark there, because 3 gram factors tend to be the most important factors when analyzing these. Well, just tell me what they are. If you must know them, so just tell me what they are.
There's no such thing as the 3 gram factors. I'm telling you, the court specifically rejected that kind of distillation of the test. The test is objective reasonableness.
So you're saying there's no such thing as the 3 gram factors?
I'm saying that it's a misnomer to think that it's like a 3-part test. It's the
No, wait a second. You're misunderstanding. I'm not saying it is a 3-part test, i.e. those are the only 3 things you can look at.
Yeah.
Right? But they are specifically cited in the precedent as 3 things to consider alongside other things. So can you just tell me what they are?
Yeah, so I'm not sure what you're referencing. It's possible that the reference relates to reasonable necessity, the use of force, whether or not there's a threat of imminent serious bodily injury or death. And
are you reading this, by the way?
No,
are you reading this?
My hands are right here. I'm looking at my chat.
Oh, I see. Oh, you're getting it from your chat. Got it. Okay, interesting.
I don't know if I don't even know if I'm right. I'm just like,
you're getting it from your chat, bro. It's so obvious, bro.
No.
Okay, I can tell you. It's okay. You clearly don't know. Okay, you clearly don't know. I'll read it to you.
They're not like the 3 sacred factors. It's not a test like that.
No. Okay, I didn't say there were 3 sacred factors.
Okay.
But you're quoting something and you're referencing something.
I'm not quoting anything.
Okay. No. Sorry. You're referencing her demeanor. Okay.
Yeah, it's relevant.
Now, a totality of circumstances evaluation could include a demeanor. I don't disagree with that.
Awesome.
Right. But then I'm questioning you about the Graham factors, and you clearly don't know what they are. And the Graham factors, right, are very important factors because they're what the court would tend to weight, and they're referenced specifically in the precedent that's set.
Okay. Congratulations.
Right.
I don't know what that was about.
Why are you acting like that?
I don't know.
Well, clearly, well, you're talking about this and you don't know some of the fundamentals. That's what I'm saying.
No, it's people's like inaccurate perceptions that there's like a X factor test to the totality.
Wait, you're misrepresenting my position. I mean, I can't be honest. I thought you were a good faith guy. You're misrepresenting what I'm saying. I'm saying the Graham factors exist. Okay, they're referenced all across the fucking US in terms of the law enforcement training, even, which is separate to the law, right? Because they're the three most important things they tend to look at. You can look at anything as the totality of circumstances. And in fact, the recent Supreme Court precedent in 2025 reaffirmed the totality of circumstances analysis. But the three Graham factors are the crucial ones that tend to make or break cases. Okay?
Where is that? In virtue of what is that the fact?
Well, let me read the thing to you, okay?
Wait, no, is this AI in virtue of what?
It's the actual law. It's the case.
It's not AI. It's just tell me it's not AI.
No, it's not AI. AI is not good for looking at this. This is the actual wording of the Supreme Court decision I'm about to read to you.
All right, go for it.
Okay. So it says because the test of reasonableness.
Sorry. What says?
Do you want me to? Okay, I can read the whole thing. It's just
no. I want to know what the thing is.
Connor 1989. Graham versus Connor 1989.
Okay.
They set the precedent for objective reasonableness, which is about which introduces the totality of circumstances broadly. Yeah. Okay. Determining whether the force used to be effective, determining whether the force used to be effective in a particular seizure is reasonable under the Fourth Amendment requires a careful balancing of the nature and quality of the intrusion on the individual's Fourth Amendment interests against the countervailing government interests at stake. There's a bunch of quotations here. I don't know if you need that, but continuing on, I can send this to you if you'd like as well.
I know Graham.
Our Fourth Amendment. Okay, well, you don't know the Graham factors, so you don't really know it that well.
Well, I don't know them distilled like that, but I know the case.
We know the case, but you've not researched this because the Graham factors are one of the things you will undoubtedly find in research about this because it is fundamental to discussing use of force.
Okay, go for
it. And you haven't looked it up because you don't know.
Keep reading your Graham factors.
Okay.
Where does it say the Graham factors are the most important things?
Sorry, you wanted me to read all of it? Not all of it, but this part I'll read all of it. Our Fourth Amendment jurisprudence has long recognized that the right to make an arrest or investigatory stop necessarily carries with it the right to use some degree of physical coercion of threat thereof to effect it. See Terry versus Ohio, because the test of reasonableness under the Fourth Amendment is not capable of precise definition or application.
Weird. It sounds like you're saying there's no mechanical application. No, it's not.
I never said no.
Okay,
no.
Exactly.
Right, yeah. Listen. However,
its proper
application requires careful attention to the facts and circumstances of each particular case, including the severity of the crime at issue, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the safety of the officers or others, and whether he is actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight. Those are the Graham factors. Those tend to be the most important ones. But you can look at anything in totality of circumstances if you want to. You can make an argument.
No, I'm asking for the justification that the Graham factors are the most important factors in all these cases. Where does that establish?
I'm not saying they're the most important factors in every case.
You literally you said that they're most important,
when
right?
you look at case law on this, right, what it tends to come down to, right, is these three factors are the things that they look at like more than any other, but you can use any in your presentation of this. So you could talk about her demeanor. That could come into this. Her demeanor would weigh in her favor, right? I agree with that. Yeah. But then if they're looking at it and they're like, right, we're weighing up her demeanor. So, for example, if someone had a good demeanor, but they pulled out a gun, right?
Yeah, but no. But the
demeanor would work. The demeanor would work in the opposite. The demeanor would work.
The demeanor.
Right? In the opposite
wait,
sorry, go on.
What you're categorizing as the Graham factors, her demeanor plays into one of them, right? The notion of whether she's an immediate threat to the safety of the. Wait, let me finish my fucking thought, bitch.
Sorry, please go on.
Whether or not she has a particular demeanor is relevant to an analysis about whether the officer reasonably apprehends an immediate threat. And so you're acting as though, her demeanor is in isolation of what you're characterizing as the grand factors.
No, you're totally misrepresenting what I'm saying, actually. You're totally misrepresenting what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying, because you know that you're fucking dude. And unless there's some fucking libtard, Pisco, DGG, a fucking retard in chat, everyone knows I'm correct about this, okay? Her demeanor is potentially relevant as a totality of circumstances analysis.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay?
I didn't say anything more. I even said but it's not dispositive.
Listen. The reason the grand factors tend to be more crucial is because to you, right, what is more indicative of a reasonableness of using force? Analysis of a demeanor or analysis of them pulling a gun out on you?
I think pulling a gun out would be more important than demeanor.
Right. So you agree then that these factors that they put in the case are likely to be more important than whatever fucking half-baked activist retard argument you've made up about demeanor?
No, I think that's
possible, but it's likely to be outweighed by the other factors presented in the case, isn't it?
I say it's your false assumption that her demeanor doesn't play into the analysis of whether she's a threat.
I never said that it doesn't play in. Wait, wait.
Dude,
when did I say? When did I say her demeanor? Wait,
how are you pretending it's something else?
When did I say her demeanor doesn't play into it?
Okay, so it does play into. So
quote me saying that.
So you agree that her demeanor? So since you never said that, sorry you didn't. I said that you said it. So therefore, you agree that the grand factors include an analysis of her demeanor, right? The most important factors include an analysis of her demeanor.
No.
Yes or no?
No, they don't.
Oh, but I thought you said it was inclusive of it.
Okay. Right, listen, no. You're totally misunderstanding, misrepresenting me. Okay, It's about a totality of circumstances, okay? You can argue her demeanor had an influence in this totality of circumstances, objective, reasonable analysis, okay?
I would. I'm glad that you concede that. And, yeah.
I didn't concede it, okay? I didn't concede
that. Well, you literally
are,
yeah.
No, I'm not conceding. I'm not conceding anything, bro, because I'm right and you're wrong, and I've looked into this, and you know it. In deep down, you know it, but you've got to save face and do your aura farming to these people that love you. I see through you, dude. We grew up in the same plantation, dude. You know it, but it's okay. I'll let you save face.
So
okay?
when the immediate
not
threat,
as popular as me. It's okay. Go on.
The question about whether she's an immediate threat to the safety of the officers or others is in part factually determined by her demeanor, and so I'm not understanding why you're like, oh, it's the grand factors, mate. Not demeanor, mate.
No, listen.
It could, demeanor, but it doesn't here.
Okay. No, sure. It doesn't here, but I'm saying that you can look at the demeanor, right? But if the demeanor is conflicted by them presenting an imminent threat to you, right? It's more likely they're going to be more concerned with the imminent threat. For example, they're not going to say, well, they were being really nice and friendly, and then they pulled a gun out. Their demeanor, though, was part of the totality of circumstances, so you shouldn't have used lethal force. That imminent threat is going to be more determinant in how the court looks at the objective reasonableness of that use of force. Yes or no?
I didn't really understand your question.
Yes or no?
I didn't understand.
Yes or no?
I didn't understand your question.
What's more important to analyzing this? Someone pulling a gun or someone having a smile on their face? Which one?
Pulling a gun.
Right. So,
but she didn't pull up a gun.
What's more important here? Her demeanor or the arguable threat of her driving a car towards or away from the officer?
I think that the car analysis is more important than her demeanor.
Right.
But I didn't claim otherwise.
Why did I have so much friction on this then?
Because you spazzed out.
Because I was saying.
Because you spazzed out because you have a low emotional maturity.
No. Okay, you didn't know what the grand factors were. Okay, you've been exposed on that, right?
The grand factors.
You didn't know because you've not looked into it.
Yeah.
Look it up, bro. Look it up. It's real. Okay, it's a thing.
Okay.
You didn't know that. You argued the demeanor, and I said the demeanor can be included, but these grand factors are likely to be more determinant or more influential because a threat is more important. I'm
going to say one more time.
End of it. You lost.
I'm going to say one more time, right?
End of story, bro.
Her demeanor clearly factors into the question of whether she would pose an immediate threat. And so you're saying the grand factors are more important than her demeanor, as though her demeanor were hermetically sealed and separate from the grand factors.
Well, no, it's a totality of factors. It's a totality.
No, I'm saying specifically right? The grand factors. This question about whether or not she's an immediate threat, which is, I agree, highly relevant. Her demeanor is a factor that one considers when analyzing that.
It's something one considers, but that is likely to be less important than the crime issue, whether they pose an immediate threat or whether they're trying to resist or flee.
Yeah,
those tend to be the most important things they look at. You could put anything you want in there. You could say the weather, right? You could talk about how many people are on the street. You could talk about whether the officer had taken a shit or not, okay? But these 3 grand factors are so crucial because they tend to be the most determinate in terms of analyzing whether use of force was objectively reasonable.
I'm going to try one last time to make sure this gets across. Do you agree that one under the grand factors would analyze her demeanor?
No, because that's not part of the grand factors.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
No, it's not. The grand factors, no. You're misunderstanding. Totality of circumstances is everything. The court said there are grand factors. There are 3 things. The type of the crime you're trying to detain them for, okay? Or investigate or whatever, right? The immediate threat to the safety of the officer and whether they're resisting arrest.
So my question is,
those are the grand factors. Those are the 3 most important. Demeanor is another part of the totality of circumstances. So I'm chill. You're wrong. I'm not chill because you're fucking wrong.
You pointed to 3 factors. Factor 2, I'm pointing to one specific factor. Factor 2, quote, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the safety of the officer or others, would, as a factual consideration under factor 2 of what you're calling the grand factors, the demeanor of a suspect be relevant as to whether they pose an immediate threat to the safety of the officer or others? Yes or no?
Dude,
would it be relevant?
Would it be relevant?
It wouldn't be relevant. So if someone's like, "Hey, I'm gonna fucking kill you, bro," would we analyze that as to whether or not they pose an immediate threat to the safety of officers or others? Yes or no is the question.
Okay, no, not necessarily.
You wouldn't. Depends. So an objectively reasonable officer, when judging whether or not a suspect poses an immediate threat, doesn't take into consideration.
Dude, I see your trick. I see your trick. Dude, I see your trick.
You're cooked, mate. You're cooked.
No, I'm not cooked. I'm not cooked because you're talking about the demeanor here. This is way before the threat is present. There could be some conceptual case, right, where what you say perhaps would potentially be a consideration. But in this case, no, the threat comes later after the demeanor. There's a gap of time between the demeanor and the threat.
Where is that?
Okay, so if someone was putting their hand into their pocket and said, "I'm going to kill you," okay, right?
Yeah, that's part
the
of
very act of putting the hand into the pocket and saying, "I'm going to kill you,"
could
represent an immediate threat to the safety of officers. Come on. That's not about the demeanor. That's going to be a combination of analysis of what they're doing, right? But the demeanor here is not relevant in assessing the totality of circumstances as much as the car is.
No.
I see what you tried to do there, bro. You tried to slip away and do this thing and talk about, bro. You are very intelligent. That's true, but you're wrong. You're intelligent, but you're wrong. That's the issue, dude.
Hey, listen. All I'm saying is that an objectively reasonable officer, when assessing whether or not a suspect poses an immediate threat to the safety of the officers or others, factor number 2, would assess the demeanor of the suspect. That would be part of their analysis. And given that, an objectively reasonable officer...
It's what they perceive. It's what they perceive.
Yes, okay? what an objectively reasonable officer would perceive or apprehend. There are synonyms I'm using.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so
sure.
what they would apprehend or perceive with respect to the threat.
You've changed it because now it's like the demeanor is separate to that standard, but now you're saying, well, it could be considered as part of it.
No, I never said it was separate.
You're trying to be technically correct. When I'm correct that the grand factors exist, demeanor can be assessed, okay?
Under the grand factors, right? Under the grand factors?
Not under the grand factors.
Why not?
Because the grand factors are the most prominent, important.
Right, but threat is one of threat is one of the grand factors, right?
Yes, threat is one of the grand factors.
And demeanor plays into whether or not someone's a threat, right?
Well, it depends.
This is the Patrick Wallet meme. This is your Kodak moment. This is the Patrick Wallet meme.
Dude, this is what it is, right? You know when someone pulls out their wallet really quick and it's like, here you go, here's my wallet. It's a joke, like getting your ID quickly for the police, okay, right? Even though they're actually giving you their ID, right? Because of the speed at which they've done it, that could be perceived as a threat. But you're making a different argument originally. You're saying that this demeanor that we're seeing in this video, right, is part of the grand factors. But this demeanor in this video would not be considered as part of the grand factors because the threat comes later. And it isn't
I tried. Hey, I'll let the audience decide whether or not we think that demeanor is relevant under the grand factors, and we'll continue on our analysis. I never said, I agree with you with what I think is your more core point. I don't know why we have to do this fucking posturing and like macho, me.
Do you know why? Because people have fucking bigged you up and I'm going to look bad. That's what it is. Okay?
If your point is that the demeanor is less probative than the actions that take place in front of the officer with respect to the car and other stuff, the answer is yes. I mean, I agree. If that's your core point, but I never claimed otherwise. And that's why when I said, listen, her demeanor is something I'm considering, but it's not dispositive, it's me signaling like, I'm not a crazy person. I'm not just saying because she's smiling, therefore it's fine. So I obviously agree with that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but the thing is, the reason that started is because you tried to bluster your way through the fact that you didn't know what the ground factors were, and they are a part of this decision, and they're used in law enforcement across the US.
I think reference to like a mechanical test is something that we've been admonished not to do by the Supreme Court. And so I don't do it. And so it's an objective, reasonable test, and it's a kind of gestalt. It's a morass, and it's not,
well, I mean,
mechanical.
Sorry, go on.
It's not mechanical, like a 3-point test, you know?
Well, yeah, the totality of circumstances has existed more or less. Well, it was kind of started in 1985 with the other case. I can't always remember the fucking names of these. With Tennessee and Garner. And then it was solidified in Graham Connor, right?
They're two very important cases. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're talking about like a totality of circumstances as if that's been reaffirmed.
Oh, no.
Are you referring to the latest case?
No. There's other cases before that as well. It's a TOC. Totality of circumstances is not a new thing. And also, it doesn't. We both agree it's TOC. And so, like this at this point, this is like an ego thing right now, and I don't know why we're wasting time on it. I don't know why we're wasting time on this. Like, you didn't know the ground factors, mate. You didn't know, like.
Because you're going about as a lawyer saying incorrect things about the law.
What did I say that was incorrect? What did I say that was incorrect?
The 3-shot analysis, that was incorrect.
But there is no 3-shot analysis.
That you're wrong. Okay, we don't need to loop on that again.
Okay, so I wasn't wrong about anything.
No, you were wrong, but you're not willing to admit it. Okay.
What was I wrong about?
Okay.
Yeah, that's right, little bitch. A little bit, yeah. Dude, very different. It's like Anna when she's like,
I'm willing
it's not
to
like
talk
debating
about it
an
again.
OnlyFans girl.
Unfortunately, I got like an hour and a half. Otherwise, I would do this with you for 5 hours.
Oh, so you gotta go? You gotta go?
No, right now, not right now. I'm not running from you, bro. I've got an hour and a half still. Okay, I'm not finished with you yet, dude. Okay,
I'm not finished with you. Damn. Have you ever seen fucking Ninja Turtles? You're old enough. You're Gen X, right?
I tell you what, mate, I'm actually finding it quite hard to pass what you're saying. Could you do it using Watchmen as an example? I think that would be better.
Dude, are you really going there? Oh, is that what you were doing, the Vosh thing? Vosh said something about Marvel and Rittenhouse? I think I just understood.
Yeah, dude.
No, the reason I use examples from like Watchmen and stuff is because you guys literally, if I put any more words in that, you'll just be like, shut the fuck up. It's like idiocracy, like President Camacho. Like I can't grab your attention if it's not something shiny like Chauvin or Marvel. That's why I do it.
Okay, we don't need to do it with me because I've read a bit about this.
Right, so
and
like,
if we haven't,
no,
and also, if
that's
we
why
haven't
it's
read
so
it, we can read
dishonest.
it word by word on screen.
That's why it's
Go
so
on.
dishonest when it's like, it's clear I know the case law. And as you're here, like, it's not like I don't know Plumhoff, I don't know Graham v. Connor, I don't know Gardner. It's like very funny for you to be like, oh, Pisco is Marvel and comic book stuff. Like, it is so performative of you to do that,
let's
right?
Be honest. Okay,
Yeah.
of course it's performative because we're doing a performance, we're making an entertaining piece of content, right? But the reality is, right, you've got a very shallow understanding of this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's clear to me from my research that you've got a very shallow understanding. You're not even litigated a self-defense case, right? And all the right-wing YouTubers...
Neither have you.
No,
Right.
exactly. But I don't say that I'm a lawyer on the internet and make claims about things.
Just because you're a lawyer on the internet doesn't mean that you've done a self-defense case.
Sure, but then your credentials as a lawyer then wait to what you say, and I've heard so many retarded arguments from people that have obviously watched stupid shit that you've said. Anyway.
Okay.
Come on. Let's just chill out now. Come on.
Okay,
Right,
okay,
shoot. Sorry, not shoot. Like, go. Right, go on.
All right. So one factor that I take in her favor is her demeanor. I also take into fact what she says here.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
She doesn't seem like someone who's angry. She doesn't seem like someone who is like intentionally trying to like run people over. She seems more.
Sure.
Yes, she's definitely like, I think, a bit cheeky, and I think the mere fact that she's like trying to fuck with ice shows that like she's being tongue in cheek. But I don't think this is like a murderer who wants to like just kill the person. That's just my read on it as a human being.
So yeah, I don't think she's a murderer that wants to kill someone. I'd agree with that. Okay. But I think you're underplaying the antagonism here because she was in the road beeping a horn.
Yeah, no doubt.
Minutes before this.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt.
So, and the thing is, mate, look, let's just not be too gay about it, right? I don't fucking like ice. You don't like ice, okay?
I prefer you not use this heteronormative language.
What do you mean, dude?
Well, you know exactly what the fuck I mean.
Are you fucking serious, bro?
Yeah, it's triggering for me.
Oh my god. Right, but the thing is, you'd agree with me that regardless of what you think about ICE, I think about ICE, whatever, it doesn't change, obviously, the legal precedents and whatnot, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think it changes it. And that's why I'm not throwing out like a lot of people are like, oh, ICE can't even arrest, mate. They can't even arrest, mate. I'm not like doing that.
No, sure. And, I know, yeah. I mean, that is like, there are some really terrible takes. But then, the thing is as well, the right had reflexively bad takes too. So it's just so happens that, well, I think they're largely correct on some stuff.
Okay, all right.
Go on.
So I'm taking, I think a reasonable officer takes into account her demeanor, takes into account the words she's saying, that this is an asshole. Yeah. And by the way, I'm even putting aside the possibility that the officer themselves is trying to provoke a self-defense situation. That's not even part of my analysis. Although I think someone who would make that argument would take into that, like what this motherfucker says afterwards and what she's saying there. All right, so we keep going.
Yeah.
It's okay. We don't change our plates.
So, also, sorry, can you just say, why do you think he's filming the car? What's your take on that?
I'm assuming this for a law enforcement purpose.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I agree.
So it'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former.
So there's antagonism coming from her as well. Maybe he doesn't know that's the wife, but there's someone else that's being antagonistic towards him too, amongst the broader antagonism in the street, right? So you'd be on edge in this situation, right?
I don't think he's on edge. I think he's like pissed off. Do you think he's afraid of her? It's two people.
What does pissed off mean to you? Can you describe the definition of pissed and off?
Annoyed, not necessarily afraid, or in apprehension of a reasonable fear of serious bodily injury or death.
Sure. I think that you could call that like on edge. I mean, I don't know. Did I feel like we're getting into the semantics of it? But like, he's frustrated. He's like frustrated, and something like that.
Yeah, and I think an objectively reasonable officer should not be like fucking like that. I think an objectively reasonable officer has seen enough in their day to day, and shouldn't be like trigger happy because some woman is protesting them.
Okay, but hang on a sec, right? I mean, the thing is, you're talking about like an officer, right? I think that there has to be some thought process about, and this is where I start to look like I'm defending ICE. There is a lot of antagonism between ICE and communities at the moment, and you're seeing it in videos all over Twitter. And I think there is a sort of temperature around ICE that is leading to citizens to engaging in very provocative behavior, ICE responding in kind, and it's creating this kind of loop of antagonism.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I agree that a reasonable officer would take into account the fact that there have been violent actions taken against ICE in recent months. I don't doubt that. But there's also lawful protest activities that happen, and as well as, opposition, which is not illegal or
but her act, I mean, it's difficult to determine because unfortunately she's passed away now, but blocking the road like this is unlikely to be a legal form of protest, right?
I doubt it's legal to do what this woman is doing.
Sure. Okay.
You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car.
He calls him fat. Would a reasonable officer be triggered that they you're thinking about your lunch?
Some ugly lesbian fucking having a go at him. Jesus.
Yo, so do you like hate gay people now? You hate trans people now, right? That's what people told me. You're like against trans people.
Yeah, the narrative is because I got caught out messaging a few trans back in the day. Now I've got some sort of like pathological hate.
What is this?
Them,
what is this like? Ugly lesbian, ugly like transvestigation type stuff. Like, what are you doing?
Okay, she's a lesbian and she's ugly. It doesn't get much deeper than that, bro. Sorry, do you think she's attractive?
I do.
What is your objective, reasonable belief about her attractiveness?
She's beautiful.
Okay, dude.
What? Like,
dude, this feels so bad. We're laughing about a woman getting shot, dude. Come on.
I'm not laughing about that. It's just like you felt the need to like denigrate this person. And,
you're laughing about a widow, bro, dude. Come
you're
on.
The one calling her an ugly lesbian, and you want me as. What do you want me to do with that? I'm supposed to ignore that.
Okay. That's just quick, dude. Come on, please. Just focus. This is fucking crazy. Go on.
Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the...
I think, so you start to see her moving her wheel to the right. Agreed? Yeah.
Well, hang on a sec. Right? I can see it, but I don't know that the officer is necessarily perceiving that.
Would an objectively reasonable officer be perceiving this?
Well, the thing is, an objectively reasonable officer may be perceiving it. They may not.
Would be.
An
Would be.
objective
Would be.
No. An
What else would they
objectively
be
reasonable officer could perceive many things in these circumstances. An objectively reasonable officer may perceive that there's a 2-ton hunk of metal that is reversing and is imminently about to drive in a way that it looks like it's coming towards them from their perspective.
I think what you're suggesting is an objectively reasonable person, officer, might have their like dick in their hand and just be like la da 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 da. No, an objectively reasonable officer looks at the car in relation to their body and the driver.
Okay, that's not certain that they're looking at the driver. It's not certain what they're perceiving. This happens so quickly, and I would
in your
say,
mind, as you see this, is do you separate that out? No, as someone who's watching this, you see the car and
you're
the
doing
woman.
20/20 hindsight. That's not advised by the Supreme Court. You're sitting in the council chambers and you're calmly pausing, rewinding. It's about the officer on the scene, what they're perceiving. I would say that in a moment like this, when a car suddenly reverses when you're walking towards the front of it, okay, you're more likely to be perceiving the fact there's a massive piece of fucking metal maneuvering in a way that looks like it's going to fucking squash you to bits.
And do you think that an objectively reasonable officer, in response to that, would step to the side?
Here's the problem that you've got. An objectively reasonable officer could do a great many things here, okay? Just because one option is reasonable doesn't mean that another option is unreasonable. So an officer may choose to step to the side, okay? But just because that exists doesn't mean that a reasonable officer would then not be authorized to use lethal force in this situation, because a reasonable officer may decide that based on the totality of circumstances, that is the best use of force in that given situation.
Just what use of force? To stand there, or to not move to the side is the best use of force?
No, to shoot being the best use of force. So
no, but that's what I'm asking.
Standing to the side. No, standing to the side isn't the use of force. Standing aside is retreating, right?
Well, I don't know that it's retreating from the entire encounter. But do you think an objectively reasonable officer? I'm just asking. You can say yes, but it's not dispositive.
Stepping aside is retreating. Stepping aside is retreating. That would be considered retreating before using lethal force.
No,
of course it would.
No, I'm not saying that you retreat from the situation. And even if it was,
no, that's not what retreat means. That's not, no, you've got it wrong.
What is retreat?
Retreat just means that you take a potentially safe route to get away before you then use force. So stepping to the side would be considered a form of retreat, which is something that law enforcement officers are not obligated to do.
I'm
not
convinced.
Obligated by law. I'm not convinced. By law to do it.
I'm not convinced that a step to the side is considered retreat for those purposes. But even putting that aside, assume it is. I'm just asking you the question: would an objectively reasonable officer? You can say it doesn't matter that he didn't. You can say that, but I'm just asking you the question: would an objectively reasonable officer step to the side in the moment?
Possibly.
I'm not asking possibly. I'm asking would they?
Well, the thing is, objectively reasonable officer doesn't mean that there's one best option. It means there's multiple options, right? And we can get into this in detail. None of them are particularly good. He can shoot. He can step aside. He can jump on the hood. The reality is, her maneuvering the car creates the jeopardy, and the officer is given a split second to respond, and they're making the best possible decision that they can with all the things that they've got in there. They don't have to do a threat matrix analysis in 0.5 seconds of all the various options and pick the best one to do. All that's asked is,
I'm not saying that. I'm asking,
would an objectively reasonable officer do this and use force? And the answer is yes.
I'm just asking, what, in your view, what would an objectively reasonable officer do in this situation? Would they get out of the way of the car?
You're asking for one particular answer, and the reality is there is no one particular answer, because an objectively reasonable officer could do many things in these situations, okay? And one of those things that they could do is pull out their gun and use force.
All right, so I'll ask you, are you telling me that one objectively reasonable action the police officer could take in this situation is to be in front of the car in this moment?
They weren't in front of the car until she started maneuvering.
No, I'm not asking. I'm not asking that. I'm asking, would it be the case that among the objectively reasonable actions that an officer would take, that standing in front of the car or persisting to be in front of the car would be among them?
The thing is, right?
You're looking at that or not?
You're looking at. Okay, but the thing is, it's a dumb question when we're talking about use of force, because
if
it's not
dumb,
about,
just answer
is there
it.
an option? Is there an option that means that you don't use force? Okay, that's not what's being asked. There might be some police policy that says best practice is to stand aside. Okay, right?
You can say it doesn't change the outcome. You can just say, just give me your answer. You can just answer it. I'm asking, is among the menu of objectively reasonable things the officer would do in the situation to continue to persist to be in front of it?
I don't think an objectively reasonable officer would stand in front of the vehicle and do nothing because it increases the chances.
No, that's not what I asked.
Hurt.
No, this is before you draw your gun. I'm just saying, at this moment in time, would among the menu of objectively reasonable actions an officer would take be to persist to be in front of the car?
An objectively reasonable officer may make the determination that the best thing they can do right there is to stand in front of the vehicle, but just because that option exists doesn't negate their ability to use lethal force.
So it's one of...
Correct? Yes or no? Yes or no?
I'm not saying that it negates it. I'm just saying that your view is that one of the reasonable actions...
Why are you going on about it then? If it doesn't negate it, it doesn't make... There's no point in discussing it.
I'm not saying that it necessarily is dispositive, but I'm just saying what you're saying right now is ridiculous. That an objectively reasonable officer...
Why am I saying that's ridiculous?
That it wouldn't be objectively reasonable in this context before the car has gone...
Because it doesn't matter what would and wouldn't be objectively reasonable in the way you're describing it. It's, would an officer, based on the totality of circumstances, be objectively reasonable to perceive a threat to himself or others in this exact situation?
So
and the answer is yes,
unclear.
Because the car is maneuvering towards him. A big fucking vehicle is moving his way. It's simple, bro.
Actually,
that's it. You're overcomplicating it. You're overcomplicating it to back up your politically biased argument.
It's actually unclear.
This is, why was it? Obviously murder was your original take. I believe you might have brought that back. You said
no. It's
gotten
gotten stronger. It's gotten stronger. So, I don't think it's clear that the Supreme Court has said that whether an officer who puts themselves in danger affects the TOC. But there are lower appellate courts and district courts and trial courts that have held that putting oneself in danger as an officer is relevant to the TOC. So I'm not saying that it's dispositive, but I'm
the Eighth Circuit Court, I don't believe, has that standard, which Minnesota is in.
I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying it's a relevant thing for us to analyze at this moment. And I wanted your take. I just wanted your take.
Okay, no, because you're trying to come up with these fucking stupid legal arguments, right?
It's not stupid.
You're talking about the concept of officer-created jeopardy. Is that right? Yes,
correct.
Right, okay. So that isn't something, my understanding is that isn't considered on the 8th Circuit Court that Minnesota is in, okay?
I'm not saying it is.
Sure, okay. So even if he was on state charges, right, it would be unlikely that his negatively impact his argument for self-defense.
So just because there's no binding precedent from the 8th Circuit yet that would suggest that they adopted the rule about officer-created jeopardy, whatever, doesn't mean that they couldn't come to that determination in this case, A, or B, that the Supreme Court in this case could consider it as part of the evidentiary situation if this case were ever to come in play. All I'm just saying is I'm an exhaustive guy. I want to go through everything, and I just want to get your take that if there were that doctrine...
what, Pisco? You are fucking exhausting, bro, but it's fun, so it's all good.
So given that, do you think this is an officer-created jeopardy, an unreasonable officer-created jeopardy, or not?
No, I don't. Okay, because fundamentally, and I can show you the clips to back my point.
What would if this wouldn't be it? What would?
If, for example, a car was already moving at speed, driving down the street at 60 miles an hour, and the officer stood in front of the vehicle, put himself in harm's way just before he got hit to try and justify the use of force. That is something that I would consider. And there is actually some, not precedent, but there is another circuit court decision that talks about this exact issue. And it says that had the officer stepped in front of the vehicle before it started moving, then it's likely that lethal force would have been justified.
So it is relevant for you. So I should linger here because for you think that that's important case law. I would agree. I think it makes sense to include it. I'm not saying it's dispositive, but that's why, like, when you kind of whine and moan, like, why is this relevant, bro? Why does it matter, bro? It is relevant, and you're citing why it's relevant. That if there was an unreasonable officer-created hazard, that it's something you would consider.
So I made the correct argument, and you're taking credit for that. Is that how that works?
No, because
bro, you're so sneaky. It's unbelievable.
No, I'm not. I'm saying, bro. I'm saying you did something sneaky by trying to like skip this part when it's relevant to your analysis.
No, okay, but here's the issue. Okay, I'm looking at this from current precedent. Okay, and there are various courts that look at officer-created jeopardy, but that is a more evolving theory, and it's come up as a product of Floydism. You know about
Floydism is? No, I don't know what Floydism is.
Do you want to explain?
Yeah.
Okay, you might like this. Okay?
Wait. First, before you do that, explain hoflation.
Sure. Hoflation?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the idea that uglier women have got better opportunities on the dating market.
Okay. Now explain Floydism.
Okay. So Floydism broadly refers to the hysteria and some of the decisions that have been made in regards to policing and other aspects following the murder of George Floyd in 2020. Okay. So one of the things that...
Why is this an example of Floydism, this officer created jeopardy thing?
Dude, I promise you're going to like this. But let me tell you, first of all, here's one funny example. You know, they took Aunt Jemima off of the syrup bottles, right?
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
Okay. So basically, I don't know the exact... I think it's 2021. There was an article that was written. To be honest, I've not read it. But it talks about this idea of officer created jeopardy. Okay.
Sorry.
What's so funny?
You haven't read it, you're like, but it says this.
Bro, come on, dude. You haven't read half the shit I'm talking about fully. Come off it, dude. Give me a break, man. Come on. The thing is, I just read about the concept because, dude, I know all about this. It's super interesting, okay? And I think you'll like this, okay? So, officer created jeopardy. Some courts determine on it. The recent Barnes versus Felix case reaffirmed totality of circumstances, but they refused to say whether or not officer created jeopardy could be considered. And they left it for the lower circuit courts to decide. So this is something that is developing in legal theory at the moment.
Yeah, but it's not Floydism. It's not because of Floyd. It's because the court, there's like a split on the issue.
Okay, sure. This is a split on the issue, but the reason, originally that this was sent up from the Fifth Circuit is because they were looking at moment of threat analysis, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And they said, you need to look at totality of circumstances. And they didn't answer the question about officer created jeopardy, a concept which has seen more weight and more pushing in the legal system since George Floyd was murdered, because there's more questions and scrutiny for police since the murder of George Floyd, including things like body cams, right? That's how it's a product of Floydism.
Unless the Fifth Circuit precedent is from before Floyd. I don't know if that's true, but fuck, I'm just going to look at it real quick. We're just going to do a real quick fact check here. You might be right. Dude,
listen to me. I can explain this to you because I've looked at this already, okay? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Not surprised you didn't know, okay? So the Fifth Circuit Court, right, looked at the case, and it's where the officer jumps on the sill of a car as it's driving off, and he fires 2 shots at the guy and kills him, right? Okay?
Uh-oh.
What?
The Fifth Circuit precedent is from 2011.
Okay. What's that got to do with what I'm talking about?
So it's not a result of Floydism, right? That it percolates in...
No. The idea of officer-created jeopardy as a concept being discussed broadly and being implemented in police policy and influencing the discussion around these court decisions, that is a product of Floydism.
Oh. And what's the
Does that make sense?
What's the source for that?
Oh my god, dude. Okay, I'm trying to do a bit, and you're making it this big fucking thing that have you got a source for this being from Floydism? Bro, it's something I made up, bro. Source, I made it up. Problem?
Okay, we're taking too long. You don't have that much time left. We need to get through this.
Okay, I've got about an hour. But no, listen, just quickly. One quick thing, okay? So, the Supreme Court vacated the decision of the Fifth Circuit Court and said, look at it again with totality of circumstances.
Right.
And the Fifth Court determined the officer's use of force were reasonable, and they jumped. Do you want to see the body cam? The body cam is insane.
No, we don't need to do that.
Finish this first. Anyway, the point is, right, the Supreme Court is consistently giving, right, broad latitude for police officers to use lethal force in circumstances where someone is operating their car, right? So my perspective on it is they're basically saying if someone's driving a car, you've got broad latitude to just fucking open fire.
No, that's the Fifth Circuit applying the test from the Supreme Court and coming to the same result.
There's a concurring decision which we can get into from Kavanaugh that I think is interesting in relation to this. Have you read the concurring decision?
No.
Okay, that's disappointing, but that's okay. I can talk to you about that in a sec.
Okay.
Continue your analysis.
Okay. Fucking bitch.
Okay. So fucking bitch possibly contributed to state of mind, but stated after the shots, so less relevant than if it was said before, I would say. Likely. Would you agree with that?
I don't know that it's super just like relevant to what we're doing here. I'm not sure that the state of mind of the officer. Just give me a second to stop sharing this. I don't know that the statement is super relevant to my analysis, but yeah.
No, sure. But like, I mean, obviously I've not seen all your takes, but some people are claiming that shows something substantive. So fair enough. We don't have to get into that. So my fundamental point is the fact that she's operating the motor vehicle in the way that she is, regardless of what direction the wheel is facing, regardless where the tires are facing, or whatever fucking take you want to have on it, okay? That creates a reasonable belief under the totality of circumstances of lethal or deadly threat to the officer or others. Thus, legal force is unfortunately legally justifiable.
All right,
that's my take.
I can go about this different ways. I want for us to be efficient, and so I'm going to get to what people have told me has convinced them, and it's the following. Let's assume, for now, we'll go back to it, that there is a threat, an imminent threat of serious bodily injury, right? You wouldn't need to prove a serious threat of death because the injury is less than that, right? So let's assume, for the purposes of our discussion for now, that there's an imminent threat of serious bodily injury. Can you explain why the use of force in this case has any tendency to lower that threat?
I don't need to, because that's not necessary in order to justify lethal force.
I contend that it is.
No, it's not. Cite your case law, cite your precedent.
Yeah. Do you think so? I'll tell you in a second. But do you think that an objectively reasonable officer would use deadly force if it's not necessary? Reasonably necessary?
Okay, but you're going back to, are there other options? You're asking, are there other options available?
No.
And just because no, you are because you're saying wouldn't no. You're saying there's other options available.
And then what I'm asking is deadly force justified?
Because you're overcomplicating. You're overcomplicating.
No. The question is deadly force justified? Is deadly force justified when it's not necessary? Reasonably necessary?
That's irrelevant to the point of whether the officer is entitled to use justice.
It's
Here's the precedent, dude.
No. Let's just walk through it. This is the point that cooks everybody. All right, so just embrace it.
No, it doesn't cook everybody.
Embrace
it doesn't cook everybody because you've misunderstood it, and other people don't understand it, and they're believing you, but it's wrong. You do not need to elaborate on, I thought the force would do this. I thought the force would do that. Right?
You do.
In that moment.
So I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example, and you tell me if you agree. It's the one I've been using.
Go on.
Someone is shooting you from the north. Okay.
I don't care about this. Cite me some case law. Cite me some precedent. I don't care about your hypotheticals.
I
don't care about your hypotheticals.
No, you're going to answer it. 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 No, that force must be objectively reasonable and necessary. Deadly force must be necessary. That's what.
No, you're getting it wrong. The standard is right. Does a reasonable officer, have okay, dude, you are totally making this more complicated than it is. Okay,
it's simple as pie, baby. Have you seen Traffic then?
And the
it's simple as pie,
of the
baby.
officer on the ground, with his actions,
that's the position.
Objectively reasonable.
That's the position I'm taking. So don't be a coward. Let's walk through it. Don't be a coward. Okay. Let's just walk through it.
I'm not being a coward, dude.
Let's walk through it.
Stupid fucking lawyer tricks.
Let's
do it through. No, don't use that one. Use the Watchmen example. Don't be a fucking coward and do your movie example.
We'll do the movie example. So, Ozymandias has set off a device in his laboratory. Okay, and the device is in 2 minutes going to go off and explode the entire laboratory. Okay, and he's pressed the button. And it's not a question of if it will go off. It's going to go off. And you can't prevent it from going off. You have him there. And you agree in that context that you are under an imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death. Correct?
Can you
answer the fucking can you answer the fucking question and not be a bitch?
You're talking about Watchmen. Oh my god, dude, you're so
So I didn't want you asked for this. You asked for this.
Congratulations.
You asked for this. You asked me to do it.
I did.
You asked me to do it.
You
asked me to do it.
You got out.
You asked me to do it. So the case law is Gardner.
The
case law is Gardner. The case law is Plumhoff. The case law is Gardner.
The case law is
the case law is Gardner. The case law is Plumhoff.
That's getting clipped. Someone clip that.
The case law is Graham v. Connor. The case law is Gardner.
Social media now, bro.
The case law is Gardner. The case law is Plumhoff. The case law is Graham versus Connor. The case law is everything we've talked about.
You didn't know the three. You didn't know the three.
So we're walking through it. In the case I provided, are you under a deadly threat? Yes or no?
How do you think the Supreme
Are you under
Court
deadly
will look
threat?
at
So
precedent
you have
and
to
apply that to
answer the
Watchmen
question.
comic?
All right,
That's
all
an
right.
interesting question,
We're
isn't
getting
it?
an answer from you.
What do you reckon?
I'm not
We're
gonna
gonna
move.
sat
I'm
there
not gonna
and look
move off of this hypothetical. So you better get used to me asking the same question. Would you be under deadly
Yes,
threat? Yes or no?
fully authorized to absolutely fucking nuke that guy. Ozymandias, you're getting you're going down, Ozymandias.
Would you? I'm not letting you be mad of it. Would you be under deadly threat? Yes or no? Would you be under deadly threat? Yes or no? Would you be under deadly threat? Yes or no? Would you be under deadly threat? Yes or no? Would you be under deadly threat? Yes or no? Then we're gonna. This is the rest of your time. Would you be under deadly? Would you be under deadly threat? Yes or no? Would you be under deadly threat? I just did. Garner.
Why don't you cite?
Garner, Graham versus Connor, Plumhoff.
That speaks to the specificity.
They all speak
not
to
some fucking Watchmen example.
Yes or no? Would you be under deadly threat? Would you be under deadly threat?
Well,
Yes or
the
no?
thing is, Dr. Manhattan.
Would you be under a deadly threat? Yes or no?
And he could get into the.
Would you be under deadly threat? Yes or no? Would you be under a deadly threat? Yes or no? Would you be under a deadly threat? Yes or no? Would you be under a deadly threat?
Dude, it's worthless.
Would you be under a deadly threat?
I'm not answering the hypothetical, dude. I'm not doing
because you're a pussy bitch. Because you're a pussy bitch. Because you're a pussy bitch.
Fucking mind.
You're a pussy bitch because you're a pussy bitch.
You've not escaped the plantation, bro.
You're a pussy bitch and you're cooked. That's why I won't answer it, right? Because you're scared.
Hypothetical, dude. I'm not scared. I'm not scared.
You're scared.
If I wanted to answer it, I'd just say.
Would you be under deadly threat? Yes or no?
justified.
Would you be under deadly threat? Yes or no? Okay, you are under the threat.
Yes.
Would you be justified in using force to prevent that threat?
Definitely.
In virtue of what?
100%.
In virtue of what?
Sorry, can you repeat the hypothetical again? I can't remember what it is.
Yeah. You know those hypotheticals. So it's embarrassing,
the point
right?
is, we're talking about legality, and you're quoting fucking Watchmen, bro.
You asked for that. I was giving you an example that wasn't related to comic books, but you're such a trigger.
You give me an example?
You're like one of these. You're like what? I did. You're like one of these triggered wokeists who gets like fucking butthurt when you don't use like the proper terminology or whatever. You're no better than them. You're a bitch who won't answer a fucking hypothetical, and you meme your way out of it because you're low IQ. I gave I gave my self-defense take before Destiny gave his take. I've given self-defense takes against Destiny. You don't know fuck all. You understand that one of our first fucking vicious debates was about self-defense.
How did that pan out?
It was about You're so stupid.
What's your take on Rittenhouse?
Yeah.
What's your take on Rittenhouse?
So my take was agnostic until I saw the trial, but you can look for any clip of me saying not justified use of force. And after I saw the trial, I think that it was justified use of force in that case. You can't find me debating Destiny to say that Kyle Rittenhouse shooting was not justified, because that wasn't my position, and everybody knows it. Our disagreement. So you're unwilling to engage seriously because you know you're fucking cooked. I'm giving you hypotheticals. You asked for the comic book one. So all you're trying to do right now,
they do about law. I'm talking about the law. I'm bringing fucking precedent.
What do you think fucking lawyers do before the Supreme Court?
I know better than you do.
What do you think the Supreme Court does?
They're going to be arguing about fucking Watchmen at the Supreme Court. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying they're going to use. They're not going to use they're not going to use the hypotheticals that I use. You asked for that hypothetical because what you're doing now, right, is you're trying to clip farm. That's the definition of bad faith.
Correct.
That's the definition. So you are bad faith. You agree?
Bad faith is saying something I don't truly believe.
Wait, no.
No, I'm not bad faith. Bad faith is saying something I don't truly believe.
Isn't refusing to engage, and when someone gives you a hypothetical that is addressing their point, and you choose...
You could say I'm not being intellectually charitable towards you.
No.
Sure.
So is not having charity for someone bad faith?
Bad faith means saying something I don't truly believe.
Wait, that's all bad faith means. That's all bad faith means is saying something you don't believe.
That is the definition of bad faith. Look it up.
Yeah, I don't think that's
Look it up, bitch.
Bad faith
Look up something for once in your life, bro.
Bad faith is broad.
Look up
bad faith is broader than
your life.
Bad faith is broader than that. Bad faith is broader than that. And we're just going to get serious answers to the hypothetical. So in the case in which there's deadly force applied to you.
Mate. No, wait, stop.
I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping, yeah.
No. Just listen, okay? That was actually quite fun, okay? That was good. Go. I'll answer your hypothetical. Go.
Okay. There's someone shooting at you from the north, from a store, southward. Yep. So they're shooting to the south. And a cop is behind, I don't know, a barricade or something. But you would agree in that case, he's under a deadly threat.
Sure.
To the south, there's, I don't want to say it, like a highway. And the cop, because he's anxious, starts shooting to the south. Is it justified? Under Garner, under Plumhoff?
Well, it goes back to the objective reasonable standard.
Yeah,
that's what matters.
Would an objectively reasonable officer
And
be
the
justified
reason
in
that it's
using that
difficult
force.
with these hypotheticals is because it's about a totality of circumstances. It's on a case-by-case basis.
I've given you all the
And I do not have-
circumstances. I've given you all the circumstances.
No, you
get.
haven't.
Yes.
No, you haven't given. Okay.
For the
Well,
hypothetical,
it's impossible for me to determine without more context because like what is the crime that is being committed, right?
the crime right now, the only one that's apparent is he's assaulting an officer trying to kill him.
So the guy from the north is shooting the officer.
Yes.
Okay.
And the officer, I'm telling you, is anxious and shoots to the south for no good reason.
I'm sure this is very impressive to DGG, but okay, right. So that shooting to the south for no reason. Why is he shooting to the south?
He's scared.
Okay, well, is he perceiving a threat? Is it objectively reasonable that he's perceiving a threat?
Yes, to the north.
Well, then it would okay. Well, then the lethal force would likely be justified. Yes, because he's perceiving a threat.
And this is what is the most preposterous position that people have, is that the only thing to consider is whether they're under threat. And so long as they're under a qualified threat, anything is justified. But that can't be what an objectively reasonable person would think is necessary to prevent a qualifying threat, right? That isn't true, right? An objectively reasonable officer doesn't just consider the fact that...
It's not about what your hypothetical says.
No. The law says that force...
The law allows for You're so retarded, bro.
I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying it doesn't.
You don't have to be
I'm
perfect.
not saying...
You can make mistakes.
This is bad faith. Now I know you're being bad
mistakes.
faith because you know that what I said wasn't that you can't make mistakes. You know that what I was saying...
he's making a mistake because he's scared, right? What matters is there a reasonable belief? That's the fundamental thing. Objective, reasonable belief.
That the use of force would do what?
If he makes a mistake, okay, it's whether he has this objectively reasonable belief to use force. So obviously there's
related
more
to what?
Related potentially, yes. Shooting self. It's crazy, I know, but that seems to be what the law says. Yes,
it doesn't say that, you fucking idiot. You think it's possible that if there's some fucking woman crossing the fucking street or an entire fucking shopping mall to the south, and he's under threat, and he just starts fucking banging away. He's like, I don't know what to do. And the city comes and says, we're going to fire you, and now all these people are going to file qualified immunity suits or suits against you for violation of our civil rights, and we're going to charge you. You think the officer could say, well, I was under a deadly threat. And they're going to be like, yeah, but your use of force wasn't reasonably necessary. And guess what? In that case, he's going to fucking jail.
Okay, but the problem is, if he feels that he's under threat and he has a perception of threat coming from that direction, right? It's possible that a reasonable officer in that position would
shoot into a shopping mall. Would shoot into a shopping mall.
Possibly, yes. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's correct. It's
and the law would protect him. You're saying the law would protect him. All right, so we're going to add babies to it. There's a nursery to the south. It's filled with 100 babies. Your children. Your Elon Musk. They're all your kids. He throws a grenade. He throws a fucking grenade to the south.
This is showboating for DGG. It's so transparent.
He thinks if you throw a grenade into a nursery just because you're getting shot from a different direction, that the use of force would be justified. That's crazy. It's not, because you analyze the force and whether the force itself is justified in virtue of
here's the problem. You're doing what you were doing earlier now, that you're saying that each use of force is under one umbrella. It could be that they look at the use of force of firing to the north as one use of force. If the use of force to the south is the same coherent use of force,
I'm assuming
they will be justified.
I'm assuming there's no threat.
If they're shooting one direction,
it wouldn't be justified, right?
No, if they're shooting north, because that's where the threat is coming from, right?
That's not the hypothetical, though. The hypothetical is they're shooting south.
Okay, but the threat is in the north.
Yes.
Okay, but they're shooting south.
Right.
If the officer could say that they had reasonable belief that the threat was coming from the south, that could validate the use of force under the law.
But he says, no, I didn't really perceive a threat to the south. I perceived it to the north.
Wait. Well, that's a different thing then, because he's saying I didn't perceive a threat to the south, and that would be an insane thing to say, because under those circumstances, he cannot argue that he had reasonable belief of a threat, right?
He did have a reasonable belief that he was under threat. He did. You agreed he did. We all agree he did. He absolutely had the objectively reasonable belief that he was under a deadly threat.
But then that's directed in the wrong direction, isn't it?
Correct. So that means that the use of force...
But you've changed it now. But you've changed
No, I haven't changed shit. So what this example is drawing out is you don't just analyze under the objectively reasonable framework provided by the Supreme Court. You don't just analyze the threat in isolation. You analyze whether the use of force is reasonably necessary. That's what you analyze.
Okay, so if in this instance, in your fucking stupid, retarded hypothetical, the officer, rather than shoot the car, had spun round and started blasting and hit someone behind him, it's unlikely that use of force will be justified. That more or less meets the criteria, because that he meets the criteria of hypothetical, right?
All right, so now let's apply it here. So
because
the principle that we're drawing out.
No, listen, I've got it, dude. You're such a fucking retard, dude. Right, here's the thing, okay? Would an objectively reasonable officer in those circumstances, right, fire towards the threat being presented, right, which is the car, or would he spin around and start firing in the other direction? It's unlikely a reasonable officer would spin around and start firing in the other direction.
The purpose of the hypothetical is to show you that for force to be reasonable, there needs to be some logical connection between its application and the prevention of the threat. That's what it's not reasonable to use force in a context which doesn't do that.
If it's reasonable, the lethal force is justified. Okay, right?
I know.
That's it.
Yes.
Okay.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, and then it's whether or not a reasonable officer,
yes, in his position, yes,
would do that
we're almost there.
So would a reasonable officer? No. Would a reasonable officer shoot at a car? Yes. Would a reasonable officer turn around and start blasting?
That's what I'm trying to.
Unlikely. No.
Chud, chill. So all we're asking is, what the hypothetical is trying to draw out is, you don't just.
No. I've got you. Let me. Do you think you got me with your fucking stupid?
We're so close. We're so close.
Now I've nailed you because I've mapped your hypothetical onto the circumstances, and it still would be justified lethal force for the agent.
Let me get there. Let me get there.
No, you don't need to get there because I've you with your own hypothetical.
Let me get
with your own hypothetical.
Let me get there.
The assessment would be, right, what did the officer do? He shot at the car, right? That's reasonable based on what a reasonable officer in the circumstance would do. A reasonable officer might step aside. A reasonable officer might jump on the hood. And it's unlikely a reasonable officer would turn around terrified and start blasting behind him.
I agree with that.
So that use of force specifically would be
not
unlikely to be reasonable.
All right, so wait, let me get there. Let me get there.
Come on.
Let me get there.
You nearly had me. Oh, you nearly had me there, dude. You nearly had me, by God, you bro. You know it's over, dude. You know it's over. Admit you've lost. Just admit you've lost. It's easier at this point. I will help you. Okay?
Let me get there.
You can either consent or defend yourself.
Let me get there. Okay. So what the hypothetical draws out is, you don't just analyze the existence or non-existence of the threat. That's absurd, right? You analyze also, in addition to the threat, whether or not the use of force is objectively reasonable given the threat. And
would an objectively reasonable officer do that? And yes,
the answer to that question,
yes, they would. There's tons of examples of this. There's tons of examples of reasonable officers shooting at a car that's driving towards them.
Let me get there, you motherfucker. Let me get there.
I'm not letting you get there because I've counter you. And I think chat can see that now as well. You're done. You're finished, dude.
Let me get
You're
there.
finished, bro.
Let me fucking get there. So, given that we also, in addition to the threat analysis, wonder whether the force is objectively reasonable, and part of that analysis is, of course, the logical tendency between the use of force and its prevention of the qualifying threat. And that's what the hypothetical, either the Watchman version, which you're sorting out about, or the shooting from the north example, that's what that elicits. And that's what it shows you. And so now we can apply it to our case. Is this like the Watchman example? No, in that sense. Is it like shooting from the north example? It's stylized. It's crazy. He's not shooting into a crowd. No. But here's what's the same. The same is that in that moment, shooting the woman in the car has no natural tendency to lower the threat that would purportedly qualify the use of force. That's what's the same.
Okay. Here's the problem with that, right? Here's the issue. He's got a car driving towards him. He hasn't got many fucking options, and he's got to make a split-second decision.
Well, he does have an option. He can,
what's he supposed to do?
He can do what he did and jump to the side and not shoot.
But just because there is an option, right, other than the one...
You said he has no option.
No, wait.
He does have an option.
No. You're misrepresenting me and trying to fucking counter me. But you're... And anyone that's read
Why
this
do you use
knows
this terminology as like a... This could trigger
because
people,
it's funny and entertaining. Why'd you do stupid hypotheticals to fucking get the DGG is still clapping for you? It's so transparent, dude.
All right.
Okay,
So
right.
tell me how
So
shooting the woman
you're creating
lowers
a
the threat.
false. Okay. This is the issue. You're trying to box me into this thing, but you don't understand the case law on this. Okay, it's not what the perfect thing to do would be. One option being reasonable doesn't make another option unreasonable. Okay, the point is, right, if he perceives a threat, he's allowed to use lethal force. He doesn't have to definitively stop the threat. He doesn't have to. No, we didn't disprove that. We didn't disprove that. As long as he's doing what a reasonable officer would do, and a reasonable officer would shoot at the car.
Why? In virtue of what would a reasonable officer do that?
Because when they use force and they're shooting a car, they don't have many options when it comes to what force they use. They've got a pistol against a car. They're doing the best they can given the circumstances.
Here's why a reasonable officer wouldn't. Here's my evidence that a reasonable officer wouldn't do that. All right. A, their use of force policy forbids it. B, they're trained not to do it. C, C, the other officers didn't draw pistols. You want me to go on?
The issue is you're quoting policy now, right? That's conduct.
No,
right?
what I'm doing is quoting
you
policy.
You can make an argument.
I'm quoting policy. I'm quoting because they didn't pick these policies randomly, right, Chud? You're not saying they use the use of force policies. Oh, we just like randomly selected policies that we could like do.
Okay.
Clearly, what you're saying is that the experts.
No. Use of force policies. No. Dude, you're so. You don't even realize it. Use of force policies are best practice, and they're more restrictive than the law. Okay. So they will often.
Would an objectively reasonable officer follow policy?
Well, this is the issue, is that just because there's a policy, right, of stepping aside from the vehicle, doesn't mean that in that imminent moment when you've got to take a split-second decision, it's illegal to use force.
No, that's not the policy I'm talking about. That's not the policy I'm talking about. That's not the policy I'm talking about.
People don't know what they're talking about, and you're overcomplicating this.
That's not the policy I'm talking about.
As you're making it.
That's not the policy I'm talking about. That's not the. And I'm not saying that it's dispositive either. That policy is dispositive. I'm giving you some evidence of what an objectively reasonable officer would do.
Here's the thing. A reasonable officer may follow the policy. A reasonable officer may perceive the threat so imminently, right, that rather than follow the policy to the letter of the law, he instinctively goes and shoots, right, because he's perceiving a threat. That could be the action of a reasonable officer. Just because a reasonable officer might step aside doesn't negate the ability of a reasonable officer to shoot.
No, you're being very slippery.
No, dude.
You're being very
slippery. No, I'm not
slippery.
Being slippery. You're on the ropes because you know that you're wrong. No. You know that you're wrong about this, and you've come up with this fucking stupid argument that's convinced people because they've not read about this.
I'm locked in, bro.
I have read about this, and I understand this, and I've got a grounding in this, and you know that I do, and you know that I've read this, and you know that I understand this.
So the question isn't whether or not he would.
You know that I do, bro. Come on, dude. Come on. You know that's why you're laughing.
I'm laughing because I know where I'm going. You know where I'm going. The audience knows where I'm going, and so it's funny to see
the audience is hopped up on retarded takes and they're politically motivated. Don't care what they're saying. Okay.
Okay. You don't
I'm
care.
telling you, I'm correct on this, right? You do not need to retroactively explain or justify. Oh, this is how the force would reduce the threat. Okay, because in that imminent moment, in a split-second decision, the threat is present. You're entitled to use lethal force to try to defend yourself, right?
As a per se rule? As a per se rule? As a per se rule?
Well, it's all contextual, isn't it? It's all contextual.
Right. So it's not a per se rule. It's not. It's contextual. It's not a per se rule.
It is. Yeah. Dude, you were arguing this earlier. It's totality of circumstances.
Right.
Of course. Right. And here's the thing. Right. I understand where you're going with this. Right.
Yes. Everyone does.
The reality is, I will speak to you about the concurrent opinion on this recent decision because it speaks to what you're saying. Okay. There are no good options when someone drives off of a traffic stop.
I'm not going to get distracted.
So there are no good options, right? When someone drives off from a traffic stop, right? So the officer has to make the best determination in a split second of what to do. Do they shoot? Do they move aside? Do they jump on the hood and try and use force that way? There are no good options because the person has decided to drive a fucking car in a direction that looks like it's towards them. So they're trying to make the best decision at the moment, okay? And I fear that we're getting into retroactively justifying the use of force based on things that happen afterwards because we don't know what's going to happen when he decides to use lethal force. The car could come to a stop. They could put the foot on the gas and continue forward and smash into someone. If you let them go, they might drive away and crash into someone else and kill them. It's the unknown risk. It's why broad latitude is given to officers, okay, to use lethal force in instances where people try to drive off from a traffic stop.
Do you think you distracted me just then with your monologue? I'm just wondering, do you think I'm distracted?
Well, no, the monologue, I'm correct and you're wrong.
I just don't understand why people do this thing of like just talking and filibustering and running the clock out as though I'm going to be distracted. I don't realize what the point of that was.
I've answered your hypothetical. Now you're trying to change it.
No,
because
I'm
you know
not.
that I've raped
No,
you.
I'm trying to apply the principles that we learned from the hypothetical to the actual facts of the case. That's what I'm trying to do.
I'm
and you're not letting me do it. You're not letting me do it. Every time I try to get there, you don't let me do it.
Here's okay. Okay. A reasonable officer would use force in the direction of the threat that's being presented to them. Okay. An unreasonable officer would freak out and start firing in a different direction. So that's where that comes in. That answers the hypothetical.
No. The principle is broader than that. What we learned isn't like you're so low IQ if you think that the hypothetical was meant to elicit don't randomly shoot into a crowd. That's not what the hypothetical was eliciting. The hypothetical was eliciting a broader principle, which is that the use of force must be examined for its tendency, its natural tendency to actually respond to the qualifying threat. And that to the extent that a use of force... Wait, let me finish it.
Use lethal force against the guy.
Oh
now you're filibustering the bullshit.
No, because you clearly are trying to draw our inquiry into something that's incredibly narrow,
Dude,
hyper specific.
Spud gun in chat, stupid bitch. A reasonable officer would follow policy and training. That's retarded. A reasonable officer might decide to shoot. It goes against their training, but on review, because of the totality of circumstances, they decide the use of force was justified, even though it was against policy.
No, Chud. I agree that policy isn't dispositive. By which I mean, anyone can write a fucking policy and promulgate it in their department. It doesn't mean that the law says that. So I agree with Chud in that it doesn't determine the case. I'm just offering policy among other sorts of evidence that I can offer that an objectively reasonable officer in relation to the threat that officer faced would have no reasonable belief that firing a gun would have any tendency to lower that threat, to prevent.
No, but that's not what is being asked by that question. That's not what is being asked by that question. You've got it wrong. You're overcomplicating it.
I'm not.
Okay. Reasonable force is evaluated under objective reasonableness test.
I know.
Okay. Are the officer's actions reasonable in light of the facts and circumstances? Okay. Now, they cannot know when they deploy the lethal threat what is going to happen.
I know.
They might miss and shoot a bystander. Okay.
I know.
But generally, as long as it's directed towards a threat, fine. Okay.
No.
There are no good options in this circumstance.
Wait, no. So I'll give you another hypothetical which disproves that point.
Okay. No. I don't want another hypothetical. I want you to engage with what I'm saying.
Well, how I engage with what you're saying is disproving it by giving you an example which shows its absurdity.
You're going to another hypothetical, dude, because you know that you're owned on this point.
No.
Your little hypotheticals crumbled when I've spent 5 seconds thinking about it, because I didn't want to get into it at first. But now I have, and you've on your hypothetical too. Where's the big Persian debate god that I was promised that was going to do all these hypotheticals and read me? Okay, wait, sorry. Someone else said that. That was someone else said that. That wasn't my words. Queeman said that to me. Queeman said that to me. That was Queeman.
You're not even you're not letting me get and apply the principle in this case. Let me do. I won't even ask you questions. I'll just say it out loud. Okay.
Go, shoot.
So don't worry. You can. Your adrenaline levels can come down. I'm not going to ask you anything. You're not on the spot. All right. So the reason why this is relevant is because we've learned from the Supreme Court that the use of force must be objectively reasonable in light of the threat. It's not enough to just examine the threat. You have to examine the use of force and its tendency to prevent the threat, right? It would be absurd to think, well, just the threat is enough. Can I fucking get to the application part? You're not letting me get there, right? So the whole reason we do this, we get this principle and we put it onto this case is a person in that position, because of the car's inertia and because the car isn't like connected to the life support of the person, would know that the car's going to keep going. And there's no reason to believe that killing the driver is going to have any tendency to prevent the qualifying threat, assuming the threat existed, right? So even assuming the threat existed, shooting has and a reasonable officer would know that in that specific circumstance and in the main line of situations, it wouldn't eliminate the threat. Now, different analysis in a lot of the Supreme Court decisions, for example, Plumhoff, or this case Harris, where there's there's already been like a big high-speed chase, or the person is fleeing from a murder, or the person has gone through a thoroughfare, or the person has some other indicia that they're trying to run someone over. In those cases, for public safety reasons, for self-defense reasons, you've now cleared a threshold by which killing them actually does eliminate the threat. There might even be some collateral damage.
Incorrect. Incorrect. Incorrect.
What do you mean?
Especially in the case that you cited, Barnes versus Felix, in the recent 2012 decision, because he jumped on the sill of the car as the car was driving off and used lethal force, okay? And in the car, a number of things could have happened from him doing that. It could have stopped the car. It could have careered off into the road, okay? It could be that he missed, fell off the car, he got killed, ran into traffic. The point is, there are no good options. And rather than do these hypotheticals, why don't we talk through the concurrent opinion that Kavanaugh wrote in the decision of Barnes versus Felix, because it's instructive.
I'm applying the tests from the Supreme Court to the facts of this case. So we're out of hypotheticals. Those hypotheticals were meant to show you that the objective reasonability test is relevant to the use of force and not just the perception of threat. That's what those hypotheticals are trying to suss out.
Rather than these hypotheticals, this is what Kavanaugh said in his concurring opinion. Okay? He said, what should the officer do when a driver flees from a traffic stop? There are no easy or risk-free answers.
Yeah. How does that help us?
So what he's saying, okay, that helps us because it's saying that there are no good options and the deployment of force by the officer could have a great many impacts, and a reasonable officer may decide to try and shoot the driver, okay, and from there, they don't know what's going to happen, okay, but there are instances where shooting the driver has decreased risk.
I agree.
Reduced risk.
I
okay?
agree.
So there's no definitive answer as to what shooting the driver is going to do.
I'm not saying
so
that
a reasonable officer could do that. They don't know what's going to happen, and they don't have to know what's going to happen in order to go back to justify the use of force.
So
That's not how it works.
So are you telling me that there are no cases in which you would say that the shooting of a vehicle, which is a threat, is unjustified?
Well, it depends on the totality of circumstances.
Right. So just because I agree with Kavanaugh there's no good answer. It's not easy. It's not 100% predictable.
Exactly.
But all I'm saying in this case, in this situation, there's plenty to think that the use of force is not objectively reasonable. It doesn't have any tendency to
just
prevent.
Because there are other options doesn't mean
that's not what I'm saying. No, I'm not saying other. I'm not saying other options. 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 I'm not saying other options.
You're wrong on the law. You don't know self-defense. It's obvious.
I'm not saying other options. I'm saying this option is unreasonable. I'm not saying other options. I want to say that 5 more times. I'm not saying other options. I'm not saying other options.
It's unreasonable to shoot at a car that's driving towards you.
I'm not saying
a decision as a lethal force.
No, it depends. It depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. In this case, no. In this case, no. Okay. And in this case,
why not?
I'm trying to get there, and you're not letting me. Right?
Go on. Okay, just explain it, and we'll go.
The reason why in this case it's not justified, even if it were a qualifying threat, which I'm assuming, is because in this case, shooting the driver of the vehicle has no tendency, and an objectively reasonable person would know that, but have no tendency to eliminate the threat. That's why.
Okay, but you don't have to argue that your use of force had a tendency to eliminate the threat.
Yes, you do. That an objectively reasonable person would think that.
Depends on what a reasonable officer would do.
But I said that.
Plenty of reasonable officers shoot someone in a vehicle as it tries to drive away. No,
you apply it to the case, right? Not just the general situation.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to apply it to a case, but you keep talking about fucking hypotheticals.
No, I'm talking about this case.
Okay.
Plumhoff, Graham, Garner, these are all the principles that inform our analysis.
Yeah, and the principles back me up, not you. But you seem to think they back you up, and you've concocted some novel legal theory
it's not
that
novel.
an officer, right, has to know or be able to elucidate as to how that exact use of threat would reduce the exact force that's being presented.
That an objectively
reasonable...
reasonable...
always a contextual analysis. Shooting someone in a car, it's all you've got. He's authorized to use lethal force because there's a threat present to him. He shoots the driver of the car.
So now
what other possible options of lethal force does he have? He's got very limited options, and just because he can step aside, right, doesn't mean that a reasonable officer would not stand there and shoot.
No, I'm not.
That's what you're getting at. I'm answering what you're saying, and you're claiming that I'm not because you're trying to wrap me up in hypotheticals.
I'm not.
You're trying to wrap me up in vines of fucking stupid hypotheticals, but it's not working, and you've lost, and you know you've lost, dude.
I'm not analyzing whether or not he could have just stepped aside. That's relevant to me, I think, in the inquiry of putting yourself needlessly at risk, and of the analysis.
It's not looking good for you, bro. It's not looking good for you.
You're so bad faith,
bro. Dude, there's so many chatters that are like Pisco, and now, it's turned a bit. I gotta say, dude.
Oh no. So I think that the fact that he can step away is relevant to the risk analysis, and I think the fact that he can step away is relevant to whether or not he recklessly put himself in harm's
Okay.
way.
It's
But
about what he's perceiving. How do you know he's perceiving the opportunity to step aside? You don't know that. He doesn't know if he steps aside, he's going to be clear. It looks like he tries to do both. He's making the best of a bad situation. She's creating the jeopardy.
Please
He's doing the best to respond to the lethal threat. I'm chill, bro. I'm chill.
Okay.
But I'm also correct, and you're irritating me with stupid hypotheticals. And I even engaged your hypothetical to this, and you still didn't accept it because you don't want to admit that you're.
I'm telling you, we don't have to look at whether he could step aside, because I'm granting, for the sake of this argument, I'm granting, let's say that he could not, right? And so the only thing we're analyzing is the use of force in this context and whether it's objectively reasonable, not the threat itself in relation to the use of force. So I'm not.
Dude, you're making these like insane overall arguments that aren't relevant. They're just not relevant. Is there objectionable, reasonable threat? Yes. Would a reasonable officer stand and shoot? That's one of the options.
That's what we're looking at.
Certainly yes.
No, so
and there's lots of examples.
No, the answer is no.
And you don't have to say, this is how exactly it reduces the threat. Because it's an impossible situation to contend with a vehicle driving at you in 1 second to decide what to do, which is why the Supreme Court says take into account split-second decision-making. This happened in 2 seconds.
Let us get there.
2 seconds. You're asking him to analyze all the options of what he could do and then to consider if his application of force is definitively going to stop the car. It's unreasonable to expect an officer to contend with all of that in 2 seconds. So you're asking too much of them.
You're zooming out. Simple. You're zooming out again. I'm trying to zoom in. Right? I'm granting you, for the sake of this argument, let's grant that it's a qualifying threat. So that's already done, right? We've already shown that there's an imminent threat of serious bodily injury for purposes of what I'm about to say. Okay, so we don't need to argue about that anymore.
Moment, lethal force is justified. So that's it.
No, but we already proved that it's not per se justified, right? With the hypotheticals, we proved that. You granted that. Okay.
What would a reasonable officer do? Right. And there's examples of officers, and this is something which there's in the training.
Oh my God,
they
dude!
Would shoot at the car,
dude. It is impossible to actually run the dialectic if you don't give me the space to do it.
You're wrong. You've not cited any fucking case law that backs you up.
Plumhoff, Garner.
You go back to the main ones. That's all that you know. That's all that you know.
No. Also out of the Minnesota Supreme Court, this case that I provided called Mum v. Mornson. This is from 2006, Supreme Court of Minnesota. The use of force needs to be reasonably necessary.
Are you getting that from chat? Or are you AIing it?
No, I'm not. This is a real case. I can provide for you. This is decided.
No, I'm not saying that you're on the case. I'm saying that you're using AI to search up for cases that back you up.
No, I have fucking. No, I have like access to different search.
So you got your research. Have you got your research document there?
I don't have my research document here. No, I don't have a research document.
Okay, interesting.
Do you think that I don't have access to like LexisNexis or have access to Google?
It just seems like you're flailing. It just seems like you're flailing to desperately find something that backs you up because you're starting with hypotheticals. If you had good case law backing you up, you quote that first.
I do. You're just trying to bog this conversation down, filibuster, and like clinch in this situation because you're getting fucking beat like a dog.
Dude,
and
I'm not getting
yes,
beat,
you
dude.
are, and you're not letting me finish.
I was the underdog, bro, and I've come in with a far.
You're not letting me finish it, and so you're trying to be like, oh, you got no case law, mate. I know the case law better than you, mate, and you're trying to make this about anything other than the actual analysis. We have to do the analysis. Okay. Let me do the analysis.
I'm doing the analysis.
Okay,
and I've said what the analysis is based on precedent, and that's the end of the conversation. And you're creating this new rubric. You're creating this new rubric, okay? Because it's what would a reasonable officer do, okay? And that doesn't necessarily mean they have to definitively stop the threat, or it doesn't mean that they need to definitively lower the threat, even, okay?
I'm not saying that. Wait, I didn't say
threat.
I'm not saying they need to definitively do it. I never said that. I'm not saying they can't make mistakes.
But they need to explain why that. But they need to explain why that necessarily reduces the threat.
No,
right?
They have to explain why an objectively reasonable officer would think that the use of force is itself objectively reasonable, by which we mean would have at least some tendency to prevent the threat, not punish people. Right? It's to prevent.
No, listen. I can explain it to you. Because basically, what police officers are trying to do is they're trying to shoot the person in the car because that's the only real option. Wait, why are you laughing at that?
Because you're just ignoring the point I just made. You're saying, they got no other options, mate. They got no other options. They got no other.
I'm answering it. Listen,
the question isn't whether they have other options. It's whether the option they use is reasonable.
Now, because you know I'm about
the question isn't whether the question. Wait. Stop.
Sit back and learn from the master, and I'll explain.
The question isn't whether
I've got you here, bro.
The question isn't
I've got you.
I'll let you finish. Let me finish.
I'll
let you finish. Let me finish. So the question isn't whether he has any other options. The question is the option he used reasonable? So it's not whether he has other options. It's whether the option he used was objectively reasonable. That's what we're looking at.
And it is objectively reasonable to shoot the driver. And the hope, and obviously it's not guaranteed, it's uncertain, but the hope is that by incapacitating the driver, okay, that means that the car comes to a stop. And that's the hope that they've got when they shoot, that they incapacitate the driver.
Here's the problem, Chud.
And the vehicle comes to a stop.
Here's the problem, Chud.
Yeah.
Have you driven a car before?
Yes.
Now, you tell me this, because I'm not a scientist. But if a car in motion is in motion, and you shoot a person and kill them or start to kill them, does the car stop moving in close proximity?
Not necessarily.
Okay. So in that case...
Not necessarily, but that doesn't matter. Because it's about whether the use of force is objectively reasonable.
Right. So an objectively reasonable officer would know about physics. Would know about fucking physics, okay? He would know about physics and inertia.
On this point. You know what else has got physics? The bullet coming out of the gun. Every time an officer pulls out their gun, they're increasing the risk. It doesn't necessarily decrease or deal with the risk, okay? So they're shooting a bullet. It could shoot someone at the back, to the left, to the right, okay? They could shoot the driver and it stops. They could shoot the driver and it speeds up. The point is, there's no good option. Would a reasonable officer in those circumstances take that shot? And the answer is yes.
even though, so explain these policies then. Explain the policies. Can you explain them?
Sure.
They just randomly like wrote something down on paper. They had a typing monkey. They're like, "Oh, this looks good. It's random. We don't really have any opinion about whether it's safe."
I can't explain it to you. Okay, so there's a difference between policy and law.
I know. I know. Stop with your bullshit. Stop. This is so fucking tiring. I'm not saying that the policy is dispositive on the law. I'm saying,
down, bro.
Why did they? No, don't do this calm down shit.
Because it's best.
Stop. No, you're so bad. No, why? In virtue of what is it best practice?
Yes, best practice, but
because it's safer, right? Because it's safer. Because it's safer. Is it more dangerous or is it safer?
You're not going to badger me on this. Okay? Yeah, there could be best practice, but a reasonable officer could do a variety of things. They're not looking for perfection. They're not looking for best practice. What would a reasonable officer do? And you can make mistakes as well.
I'm not saying that you can't make mistakes. I'm not saying definitive. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. What I'm telling you is the reason those policies exist is because people who are smart have made some risk analysis and they've determined that it might be the case that in most situations, shooting the driver of a moving vehicle increases danger, doesn't decrease it.
Okay, that's true. However, right, that's not what the law says. The law is a different standard than what the policy says. That's best practice. And the other problem too that you're not going to be able to contend with is if you decide to not shoot because you think in that moment it's not going to reduce the threat, they're going to drive off, and that creates more risk to the community. So you have got no good options. Either the risk is on yourself, the suspect, or the community, and you've got 1 second to make a decision about what you're going to do. You are asking for officers to go through a decision matrix of the best possible option in that moment when someone is driving a car at them. Actually, Pisco, I will grant you something, okay? Mm-hmm. There's one way to meaningfully stop the threat. And do you know what that is?
I don't know.
The person in the car to turn the ignition off.
Yeah, I don't know why that's relevant to our analysis of deadly force.
Because the police officer has got options that they've got to make a selection of in a split second, okay, right? Mm-hmm. And the realistic answer is there is no way of them definitively stopping the threat. And that is why people
you're saying that
wait.
Are you saying that there's no way to stop the threat? In that situation?
I'm saying that
you just said that, didn't you?
Shot.
Wait, whoa. Did you just say that?
Okay, you're trying to pick up what I'm saying now because you're fucking. Okay,
wait a second.
Dude,
did you just say that?
Dude, I was expecting the Peruvian debate.
Did you just say that?
You're nitpicking at what I'm saying. You're nitpicking at what I'm saying.
So shooting wouldn't stop the threat, right? You just said it, right?
Well, the thing is, it depends. It might stop the threat. It might not stop the threat. Shooting the police. No, dude, this is pathetic, dude. You're trying to nitpick at me on something. You just said
that shooting wouldn't stop the threat.
Debate bro tactics.
Fucking
dude, honestly,
bro.
I'm disappointed, bro. I'm going to be honest, dude. I was a bit anxious coming into this because I'm like, he's a lawyer. I better look into this, right? But I shouldn't have fucking bothered because you don't even know what you're fucking talking about, dude. I wasted my time researching this, bro.
Do you still want to start a show?
Of course, dude. This would go hard, dude. This would go hard.
We'll think about. We'll think
this
about.
Would go super hard.
But I just want to be honest. This is embarrassing. This is so embarrassing.
No, it's not embarrassing.
It is. It's really fucking embarrassing.
No, it's not.
You just said
you've been mocked.
You just said that he has nothing. You just said he has nothing he can do.
I've been a bit cagey on are the hypotheticals, but I applied your hypothetical directly to the car, and you said that wasn't good enough. Okay.
You just said.
And then you're concocting these rubrics that are not used in case law.
I'm going to replay what you just said. So you just said there's nothing he can do to stop the threat, mate. Well, if there's nothing he can do to stop the threat because nothing would help, then how is shooting the person in the car reasonable, given that it wouldn't have any tendency to stop the threat?
Entitles you to use force, okay? What I'm saying is there's no good option. You don't know what's going to happen. The threat might be extinguished because you shoot them. They might drive off. You might shoot them.
My final question, I'll rest my case. I'll rest my case. Do you think it's objectively reasonable to use force, even if there's no good reason to think that it would have any effect to lower the threat?
Yeah, certainly.
I think that's cooked, and I rest my case.
Oh man, that was fun. Is that it? Are we done?
No, we can keep going. I mean, I can also argue about the other two shots, which are so insane. They're so insane. But folks, we haven't even touched the other two shots. All we're talking about is the first shot. The other two shots are so cooked. I don't even know how anyone can argue for them.
But if the first shot can be justified, okay, right? The second two can because it's one single coherent use of force, right? Here's a question for you. Here's a question for you. So you're saying, right, that shot doesn't necessarily reduce the threat. What's more likely to reduce the threat? One shot or three shots?
In this case?
Sure. What's more likely to reduce?
How do you divide
3 shots?
What does it mean to divide by 0? What's that again? I'm just trying to give you the.
Now answer the question, right? If you're shooting at a car, what's more likely, right, to eliminate the threat in the vehicle? Is it taking one shot
in
or
the
3
case
shots,
in
or
the
15 shots?
In the case or in general in situations with cars?
Why can't you just answer this, bro?
With respect, okay? I'm asking you to clarify.
Right, you've got a car coming at you. The idea is you're shooting at the driver. Okay,
3 shots.
So, by your own logic, it's better to take 3 shots than 1 shot.
You know that's
because
not
it's
going to work
more
on
likely
me.
to limit the threat.
You know that's not going to work on me.
No.
You know that's not going to work on me. You know that's not going to work on me.
Bro, people thought I was and I've come back from the ashes like a phoenix. So you're actually saying the officer should have fired more shots to make it more likely to eliminate the threat, because the more force that they use, the more bullets that they use, the more likely it is to eliminate the threat.
This is desperate.
So you're actually calling for more violence.
This is desperate.
Dude, come on. You've got to admit that, dude. You've got to admit you're fucking Is it true, yes or no? 3 bullets is more likely to eliminate the threat than 1. Yes or no?
In the hypothetical you provided, yes.
Right. Is it more likely
the hypothetical that isn't the real thing?
Okay.
The hypothetical that isn't the real thing.
Is it more likely that 15 bullets is going to stop the threat than 1 bullet? Yes or no?
In the hypothetical you presented, which isn't what happened, yes. Wait.
Okay.
It would be.
So
yes.
you are actually making an argument for more force, and the more force the officer uses, the more justified they are in arguing for reasonable force use.
In
the hypothetical. Don't just shoot 1 bullet and check. Shoot 15 to make sure they definitely go down.
In the hypothetical.
Then you can say,
well,
look how effective
the force is. In the hypothetical. In the hypothetical. In the hypothetical, yes. Not in the real case.
Come on, dude.
In the hypothetical.
Bro, you are so owned. You are so owned, dude. I know it, and you know it. Chat knows it too. It's so funny, bro. So, dude, I thought I was the guy that was Mr. Force. You're saying fire more bullets to make sure it's more lethal.
In the hypothetical.
Because the more lethal,
in the hypothetical.
More lethal, because more lethal, the more justifiable the force is.
In the hypothetical. In the hypothetical, not
so
in the
if we think cops, if we think that cops should be more lethal
in the hypothetical,
retroactively justify
in the hypothetical,
should we give them like machine guns
in the hypothetical?
Cars? So that if someone drives off, we can really make sure we're fucking nailing them. Let's give them grenades to chuck into the car, right? Because that's more force, and that's more likely to be effective. That's going to blow the car up, right? And that's going to be more effective than shooting them. Let's give them a rocket launcher, okay?
No, because
then that's going to be real effective at stopping the threat.
I didn't want to trigger.
Oh, dude!
So I didn't want to trigger you. So I do want to say it's something interesting you just said. In the hypothetical, more shots, fine. But this would trigger you too much, but I don't want to say it. But I think another thing that informs the objective reasonableness test is the threat to others in this context. And I think in this context, shooting those shots, especially the shots afterwards, because of their risk to others. The shots themselves drives down the reasonableness of the use of force there as well. Now, I didn't bring that up because I think it's just like a grenade might, right? Or, I don't know, using a nuke. Like, this is what Chud's position is. You can nuke if the only option... No, this is your position.
No,
you can nuke.
Position.
You can nuke.
No.
You can nuke.
No, I'm taking the position to your logical conclusion. You said the more lethal the threat, to reduce the threat, to stop the threat more conclusively, the more justifiable. So by your logic, you could launch a nuclear weapon at a car.
I didn't say infinitely. I said 10 shots. I said 10 shots, 15 shots, 5 shots in the hypothetical. I didn't say in the actual case.
Oh my God, dude. Dude, I thought you had me for a second there, a little bit. I didn't really exactly, but we came back in the end.
Because let's put aside the legal question.
Okay, go on.
Shooting him right, shooting her right there. That's not going to lower the threat of him getting hit because the car's in motion, right?
He's making a split-second decision.
No, I'm not asking that. This is you to me, man to man. Be a man.
Man to man.
Be a man.
Okay.
All right, man to man.
Yeah.
Shooting her, the car's going to move and hit him or not, and shooting her doesn't affect that.
Correct, but also it could stop a threat to the rest of the community.
How?
Okay, because if dude, can we watch it? Okay, can I show you a body cam that shows this point?
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay?
Share your screen.
Okay, man to man. Okay, this could be a little dude. Oh my God, okay. I've got 20 minutes. Can we do this as a trial of the show idea that I was thinking of? I think this would be great. Okay. All right, trust me, this is going to be good. Okay, and you can pause, comment, whatever you want to say about it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just find it real quick. I've got it here somewhere. Here we go. Right. So let me share my screen real quick. Here we go. Okay. Oh fuck. Okay. Sorry. There we go. There we go. Dude, why is that? Okay. I'm sorry. I'm fucking this up.
You're good. You're good. Take your
Here
time.
we go. I've got it. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Right. I'm ready now. Okay. I'm ready now. Boom. Sorry. Here we go. So, look at this. We'll talk through it. I'll pause, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts as we watch this. Okay.
Driver was about to set in motion a series of events that would ultimately devastate a family and a community. Please
we can skip through it a bit just to give you an idea. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a stop at a gas station. Okay. Now, I'll play it a bit and see what you think.
Yep. Because I don't know who you are at this moment, so as soon as I have information, then you can come back. Okay. You'll have to step out for a second, okay?
Do you watch these these videos a lot?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
This is how I've learned about self-defense. Okay?
All right, keep going.
My date of birth, my social, whatever you need, but I don't feel comfortable on my visa.
I'm sorry to
So they're trying to do a stop.
at the same time, all right?
They're not complying. They need to get out. They're not getting out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. All right. Sounds good to me. But you have to put the window down. Thank you. If you want to just stand by here. Yeah, but...
Listen, if you don't come out of the car, you're going to be arrested. Because she's asking you to step out of the car.
Okay, so I'll just talk you through it because it gets a bit boring. Okay, we need to figure out the format better. But basically,
I'm chill.
Okay.
You got to come out of the car right now. Undo your seatbelt and come out of the car.
No, call your supervisor. I'm not gonna.
You don't have a license and nobody knows who you are.
So, listen.
You're arguing.
All right.
So this is like de-escalation, right?
Yes.
They're trying to.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
need to know who she is. So
He's got no other option. He has to shoot.
Dude, the only option he's got now is to pull out his gun and, by your logic, empty a man. Okay. Now I've seen this, so this is cheating. We need to find ones we both haven't seen because it'll be better that way. Okay. But do you think this is kind of good practice so far?
I guess I'm not an expert in like conflict resolution or de-escalation.
Oh my God, dude. Have a hot take, bro. Come on.
It seems okay.
Okay.
you have to stay right in front of my vehicle right now. She'll have, ma'am, I'm going to tell you one more time. If not, I get it. Okay.
We're not talking to either of you.
All right, he is not doing a good job right there. He sounds like a little soy boy, and he's like,
okay,
he's like finicky, and he's like, so I think that this is bad.
You think, okay, these people are sat in a car, not listening to commands, okay, How long do you think you would take until you get a bit chippy with them?
No, I'm not saying chippy. It's just like he's adding levels of anxiety. I think he should be like a calm fucking man with no name, fucking Dirty Harry type.
Okay, but if it's Dirty Harry, these black women will be dead. But okay,
No, I'm just saying, like, don't be this. Just be like, ma'am, I'm gonna give you one more warning. Get out of the car, or we're gonna like. I'm not saying don't use force. I'm just saying don't have this excited energy about it.
I've just realised what you want. Have you seen Demolition Man? I'm going to use a movie reference now.
Oh, is that with Denzel?
No, this with Wesley Snipes, and the cops are total pussies.
Am
That's what you want, dude.
Wait,
you want pussy cops.
Is Denzel not in Demolition Man?
No, it's Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes.
Oh, fuck. What am I thinking of?
I don't know, dude. But the point is, there's these cops that are total pussies, and they don't know how to actually engage force correctly, and they just completely subservient to the population.
So
That's
this is peak performance. This is peak performance. What we're watching.
I mean, my take on it is, like, I can understand the frustration. They're not complying, and they're trying to resolve this. They've got an obligation to get out of the car. I can't remember the law, but a seizure, legal seizure is them getting out of the car when requested on a legal stop, right?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
So they have to get out. Okay, but they're not. So they're resisting arrest, essentially.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be probable cause there for arrest. Yes.
Okay.
Your window's going to be broken, and you're going to be taken out of the car.
All right, that's better.
You're going to go to jail if you don't come out of the vehicle. All right? So this is the last time I'm going to tell you.
All right, that seems fine.
She has to get out. I'm talking to her right now.
So I will skip some of this just so because
Okay.
it just continues like this. Okay, and the next portion, because I do need to go in 15 minutes, unfortunately.
Yeah, no worries.
But this is the escalatory part that I want you to see. Okay, so not exactly clear the length of time. They're still not getting out, so they decide to escalate to more force, not lethal force, but some force.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll see.
We're going to break your window. We're going to break the window if you don't step out of it. And then you're coming out anyway. So, okay, you're under arrest.
You know what? I'm gone. Just no, for what? What is she under arrest? Take her home.
Get out of the car.
What is she under arrest?
Now, for driving without a license. Step out of the car.
You're supervisor.
No, step out of the car.
We're not going to tell you.
Don't reach your window.
Yeah, I think all this is justified.
Bit racist, but okay.
Do you think it's not justified? I think this is justified.
I mean, seriously, yeah, this is all justified, and it's just the right level for the situation, I think, as much as it looks horrible. Okay, right. So she's trying to drive off now, okay? Circumstances, not that dissimilar. Not that I really want to debate that anymore, but you get the idea,
I think
right? So
it's
driving off,
I think this is very different, but yes, I think that there's some similarities that are like.
Okay,
very
well,
important.
forget. Okay, I know that you're very sensitive and you don't want to admit defeat. That's okay, right? So let's just say this, okay? You have got a person. We don't know the exact crime, but driving off in a vehicle is likely a felony from a detention, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, they become a fleeing felon.
Yes,
Yeah?
probably.
Okay. So in this circumstance, this is a situation. Do you shoot? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. So you let the vehicle go, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
I'm
wait,
cheating.
no,
bear in mind, 'cause I've seen this already.
You follow it.
But well, the thing is, I watched this and I'm like, I probably agree, right? Based on what I've seen so far, I said, yeah, probably bad to shoot here, right? But do you think there's a reasonable perception from the officers that there's imminent threat to the community?
Not yet.
Okay, let's continue. I've cheated, so obviously I've seen this already.
Well,
but I'm making a point.
I will
okay?
tell you when I think that has manifested, in my personal opinion.
Sure. Keep an eye out for when you think the threat has manifested. Okay.
The quality. So pause right there. So do you think that? Could you pause? At that point, you agree with me? No shot, right?
But the letter of the law, legally, yes.
Okay,
morally,
that's what
yes.
we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far we agree.
Yes, we do agree, right?
Yeah.
But I don't. But legally uncertain. Morally, I'd say don't.
No,
shoot.
I think this is
But
pretty.
legally.
This is pretty certain. So we have like a non-violent crime that's being accused of. It's not one of these.
Fleeing from a detention is not a non-violent crime. The act of trying to drive away, I think, could be classified as a violent crime.
No, I'm telling you, it's not enough under the existing framework. It's not enough to just flee. in a vehicle for it to be
It doesn't
considered
need to be a violent crime. That's only you know this if you looked it up. One of the Graham
serious
factors
bodily.
is the nature of the crime.
I know,
Okay.
but the flight itself, this is considering using
The
deadly
flight
force.
itself is factored into the totality of circumstances,
yes,
right?
the factual circumstances of the flight for sure, but the existence of a flight in a car is almost like per se, unless you're fleeing from a felony or a crime in which one of these threats manifested. Then it's
the
not
moment they
justified.
put their foot, okay, but the second, and this, I mean, obviously, you know, this is where it gets into at what time does a crime exactly occur? But the second they put their foot on the gas pedal to drive away, that in and of itself is a felony, and they then become a fleeing felon
now
because they're trying to evade detention.
Now you are violating the Supreme Court precedent, which tells us
Why?
It's not enough. That flight by itself is not enough.
No, you look at the totality of circumstances, right?
Right.
And so flight isn't enough, okay, right? But is there threat to the officer or others?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So
and so
you
far
don't think there's an imminent threat to others in this situation. Oh shit, I ended the stream by mistake. I'll bring it back up. You don't think that there's an imminent threat to others here?
I'm saying
in this video.
An objectively reasonable officer would not think that there's a serious threat yet of serious bodily injury or death under the existing framework.
Okay. Okay.
And just because that threat manifests later on, I'm just saying at this point in time, under the existing framework, no shot yet.
No, sure. I mean, obviously, you can see where this is going. The threat obviously manifests later, and that's why I'm saying I've seen it, because I would agree at this point, no shoot.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying because I'm trying to say I'm not trying to say the best thing to do here is to shoot. I'm saying, you know, look at the difficult decisions they have to make and look at the unfortunate consequences.
But we have to come to results at different places. So if she drove off, and in that situation, it's an even easier case that it's not justified, right? Because the guy's not in front of the car, right? He's to the side of it.
I'd agree.
Right.
So because there isn't a direct threat to an officer,
that's an easier case.
It's an easier case for the prosecution if they decide to shoot
in that moment, right? And now
that moment, right?
And just like you can't go ex post when you're like, for example, people will say, but the car accelerated afterward. If you make the specific point, well, the car accelerated afterward, therefore, it wasn't safe. That's like being a post hoc analysis. Okay. You are supposed to analyze at the point in time the shot is taken. Now we can use the fact that it accelerated for other propositions, but yeah, you can't do it in either way.
I just want to be really clear here, because I'm not arguing, look at this, the officer should have shot. I agree. My interpretation of this is the officer shouldn't shoot. Whilst I think you could argue threat to others, I would agree that's a flimsy case. Yeah, okay. But I think you could still argue it potentially because they're driving. Yeah, we agree on this, right? But this is more about the officer didn't shoot. We've both agreed the officer shouldn't shoot, okay? Yep. I think you would agree an argument can be made, but a prosecution would have a strong case that this is not a justified shoot, right?
Correct. Well, if you just say that an argument can be made, an argument can be made on anything, you know?
No, sure. Okay, let me be more specific, okay? You could make an argument that could be convincing to a jury to use lethal force here. And there is one case, Brousseau. There's one case, Brousseau, which is somewhat similar.
Brousseau's different.
Brousseau, okay. Brousseau, I'm talking about I might have the wrong one, to be fair. It's the one where the person steps back from the vehicle and they drive off and they shoot them as they're driving off.
Yeah, but that's like after.
I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Yeah, but that's like after a bunch of shit too.
No, sure. But okay, I don't have it off the top of my head, okay? But I can send it to you afterward. It's quite interesting. Okay. But basically, the person drove off and the officer decided to shoot, and they were able to defend themselves under the Fourth Amendment on the basis of a perceived threat to others. And the Supreme Court said it would like a gray area.
That. I'm just saying we don't have sufficient facts here. You know, in those cases, there's a lot of different facts about, you know.
Okay, it's a totality of circumstances, but the basic, most fundamental point that I'm making is that you could cite that as an example of, I had a perception of threat to others that was imminent on the basis of them driving away, trying to escape a detention, and that therefore gave me objectively reasonable belief to use lethal force. That's an argument that can be made. Obviously, I don't know how strong that is or how that would be convincing.
Yes, it can be made.
No, sure.
And I can make the argument that, you know, unicorns exist, and I can make the argument that
no, wait, no.
Muhammad is real.
Just to be clear, you're still in debate mode. I'm trying to chill with you, bro.
Oh, okay.
You're still in debate mode, okay? Right? I agree with you. See, who's the debate bro now, dude? Listen, I agree with you, to be clear. We agree this looks like a bad shoot if they pull the trigger, okay? Right. But I'm saying that there is You know, I'm not saying it's a good argument. I'm not saying it's a convincing argument. I'm saying it's not a particularly strong case.
Right, it's a weak case.
Right? Okay, dude.
It's
bro,
a weak
Pisco,
case.
you're so annoying, bro, because you know what I'm getting at. I'm going to ask you the question. You're going to get it immediately. If you were this person's defense attorney, the police officer, how would you argue the case? What would you say in order to get them off? It's easy, isn't it? They perceived a threat to others. That's the best argument you could make.
I thought she was drugged out. I thought she was high. I thought that she was going to murder someone. Because she was so
why
high.
Why am I getting so much friction on this when we agree on all of this?
Because I think it's a weak case.
Why are you being like, you can make it? Yeah, I know it's a weak case. I'm not saying it, dude. You're so annoying, bro. I'm saying it's a weak case as well, but you're making it like pulling teeth. Where when I ask you in a way that you understand, you get it and you agree. You're like, yeah, that's what I'd say if I was defending it, regardless of how strong the case is. Yeah, holy shit, dude.
But it's trivial. If you say be the attorney for Hitler, like, you'll come up with something to say.
Oh my, bro. Well, actually, did you know the Holocaust was legal? So technically, it's okay. Anyway,
it was?
Let's get into that.
What?
Well, according to the Nazis' law, it was, yeah.
Oh, you mean
I'm not saying it's morally correct.
Under
Sorry,
Nazi
do you think
law.
we derive morals from the law?
Under Nazi law, it was legal. I would grant that.
Dude, okay, listen, I've got to go in 5 minutes, dude. It's unfortunate because I could talk to you longer. What I'm going to do is play it more. Okay, you point out when you think the threat to the community, okay, has been has happened. The threat to the community has come to pass, and the threat has actually become reality.
So you skipped a bunch of stuff, but I'm going to grant that they're just following her. She's like in the middle of the lane right now. Okay. So
yeah.
We're so far we're getting kind of close. All right, we're getting kind of close. This is insanely reckless driving, and it's absolutely putting people in imminent risk. The way she's driving right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So the only question is going to be whenever you take the shot, who's around you? Are you like in a school zone? Okay. So it's totality of circumstances. But right now there's a huge threat right now. Look at where she is.
There's a huge threat. It might be difficult. Pinpoint when you think the threat comes to pass, okay? Just tell me if you can spot it.
Well, again, but it's not just the threat, because it's the threat plus
No, not the threat in conception, the threat coming to pass, i.e. something really bad happens that hurts people. The threat comes to pass. You see what I'm saying? Just see if you can pinpoint it. Just trust me, I'm doing a bit, okay? Trust me.
Okay, is she going to crash into like a school bus? Oh, wait, no, the person is... Never mind, I might have misread it. I got the wrong car, maybe.
Just keep watching and we'll see if we can pinpoint when, let's have a little look and just see what happens. Okay.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Just crash out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to laugh. 2 people died. Okay.
Jesus.
So when would you say that the threat came to pass and the community was harmed by, what would you say was the main thing there?
When she killed people? I don't know what to say. And when she risked their lives by driving insanely recklessly.
When she crashed is probably the main point, I would say. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, dude, look. Okay, I do need to go really soon.
Yeah, that's okay.
The point I was making, right? And we agreed. So this is the thing. If we watched that and we didn't know, we'd agree bad shoot, right?
Yeah.
But the lack of the willingness of the police officers to use deadly force now means that 2 people are dead. So this is why perception of threat to others is a calculation, and it could be that at the time that would have been an illegal shoot, right? So it's such a fucked situation for a police officer to determine all of that, and they had 6 or 7 minutes to try and de-escalate, and it still resulted in this, even with their de-escalation.
Yeah, no, I think that sometimes following the law means people will die.
Exactly. So this is the problem. Is with your standards, sometimes I feel like you're putting such a strong standard on the police officer that they might end up making a decision that leads to people dying. I think there should be best practice. Yeah.
The reason
this is a consequence, potentially.
Yes, there is a social consequence, which is innocent people will die by the rule being stronger as opposed to weaker. Okay. But the calculation is if we have the rule be significantly weaker, we risk like authoritarianism and cops just kill people.
Agree with that.
So
you've got to find the right balance.
Yeah.
You've got to find the right balance. I totally agree with that.
And right now, the rule here is, I don't say it's deferential, but it's very allowing. It's very tolerant. All the cases we cited at the Supreme Court, most of them are approving of the action. Okay, it's a very tolerant.
So
rule.
precedent sides with the officer, doesn't it? That's what you're saying. Oh. Let's go! Come on,
Chud,
one more on the way out.
Chud.
Let's go! Come on,
so
dude.
dishonest. No, I'm
come
telling
on,
you,
man.
I'm telling you that I agree that the rule is very tolerant of police action. I'm not denying that.
Okay. Pisco, be honest. You underestimated me, didn't you? Let's be real.
Yes. Because I didn't think you would read at least this what you're purporting to read, like all the cases. So the fact that
I
you're
did read
able
all
to
the cases.
Yeah, the fact that you're citing them and saying them impressed me.
Okay, cool. Well, obviously it was very funny sparring with you, and your hypotheticals were very annoying, but it was very funny content nonetheless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you still think it was justified? Did I move the needle a little bit? A little bit.
See, this is the problem, is it feels like I've got to give you some ground, but I don't think I can because I still believe it.
You're a little
I don't know.
cuck.
Listen, why don't we
Think about
why
it,
don't
think
we
about
just
it.
leave it?
Yeah.
Why don't we leave it that we both are where we stood? Okay.
Okay.
But we had a bloody good time. Okay.
All right.
Agree to disagree. Agree to disagree. Agree to disagree. How about that?
Yes, I love that, and thank you, Chud, for indulging it.
No worries. Thanks for coming on.
All right.
Great chat.
Later, brother.